Hello, mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Rolling. Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Namta Sharma, Organizing Secretary for the International Short-Term Training Program 2, with the chosen topic on impact and panacea of environmental pollution, the past, present, and future. Scheduled to be held from 20th to 26th April 2022, signing in from the campus of Raj Rishi Govt Autonomous College, Alwar, which is popularly known as RRC. On the behalf of our patron and principal and from the organizing committee, I welcome you all to the second day of ISTTP-2. We are made for goodness, we are made for love, we are made for all the beautiful things that you and I know. We are made to tell the world that there are no outsiders. We all are one. You all are welcome. आप सभी का इंटरनेशनल शॉर्ट टर्म ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम 2 के दूसरे दिन में बहुत बहुत स्वागत है, अभिनंदन। माँ सरस्वती की आराधना करते हुए हम इस ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम के दूसरे दिन की शुरुआत करते हैं। We are beginning the second day of ISTTP-2 by remembering Goddess Saraswati and worshipping her. A small and fast recap from the first day of ISTTP-2. Beginning of the first day happened with the inauguration and unveiling of the training manual and the first book out of the 8 books of ICMESD 21 by our patron and principal, Dr. Hukam Singh Ji, which was then followed by our first keynote address, which was delivered by Dr. M. Saxena, Vice Chancellor, Tatiya University, Sri Ganganagar, Rajasthan, India. After that, we had our second keynote address, which was delivered by Dr. Satyaprakash Khera and his team, Hemlata Lohar, Environmental cum Developmental Professional, Global Director, GFSRD, Founder Secretary, Rajputana Society of Natural History, India. This was then followed by third keynote address, which was delivered by Dr. Prakash Parmar, Additional Professor and HOD, Forensic Medicine and Toxicology, AIMS, Bibinagar, Hyderabad, India. This was then followed by the fourth keynote address, which was given by Dr. Prem Adhish Lekhi, Medical Doctor, SSIOM, INGO, Ipoh, Parik, Malaysia. The first day was then concluded by the free forum and the feedback conducted by the organizing secretary. You think man can destroy the planet? What an intoxicating vanity. Let me tell you about our planet, Earth. Earth is 4.5 billion years old entity. There has been life on it for nearly that long, 3.8 billion years. Bacteria first, later the first multicellular life, then the first complex features in the sea on the land. Then finally, the great sweeping ages of animals, the amphibians, the dinosaurs, at last the mammals. Each one enduring million on million of years, great dynasties of creatures rising, flourishing, dying away, all this against a background of continuous and violent upheaval. Mountain ranges thrust up, eroded away, cometary impacts, volcano eruptions, oceans rising and falling, whole continent moving, and endless, constant, violent change colliding, buckling to make mountains over millions of years. Earth has survived everything in its time. It will certainly survive us. If all the nuclear weapons in the world went off at once and all the planet, all the animals died, and the earth was sizzling hot for over 100,000 years, life would survive somewhere under the soil, frozen in the Arctic ice sooner or later. When the planet was no longer inhospitable, life would spread again. The evolutionary process would begin again. It might take a few billion years for a life to regain its present variety. Of course, it would be a very different from what we have it now, but the Earth would survive our folly, only we would not. If the ozone layer gets thinner, ultraviolet radiations sears the Earth, so what? Ultraviolet radiation is good for life. It's the powerful energy. It promotes mutation, changes, and change the development. Many forms of life will thrive with more UV radiations, many other will die out. Do you think that this is the first time that has happened? No. Think about oxygen necessary for life now, but oxygen is actually a metabolic poison, a corrosive gas like a fluorine. When oxygen was first produced as a waste product by certain plant cells some 3 billion years ago, it created a crisis for all other life forms on the earth. Those plants were polluting the environment, exhaling a lethal gas. Earth eventually had an atmosphere compatible with life. Nevertheless, life on the earth took care of itself. In the thinking of a human being, 100 years is a long time. 100 years ago, we didn't have cars, airplanes, computers, or the vaccines. And we didn't have corona too. It was a whole different world, but to the earth, 100 years is nothing. A million years is nothing. This planet lives and breathes on much more bigger, vaster scale. We can't imagine its slow and powerful rhythms, and we haven't got the humility to try. We have been residents here for the blink of an eye. If we are gone tomorrow, the earth will never ever miss us, but we will not be here to see the earth again. So, my dear friends, wake up before we lose ourselves. The truth is, the natural world is changing and we are totally dependent on that world. It provides food, water, and air. It is the most precious thing we have and we need to defend it. Very well said by David Attenborough. So, if we do not stop here, then Earth will take a deep nap and closing a small life in it, leaving us aside. We all will die, and one fine day, maybe many years ago, after the earth regained the life, the way it has done many times in the past, and will flourish, but we will perish and will not be there to see it at all. So wake up, Mother Nature is giving you a aftermath call. A dialogue we started with ISTTP-1 with a series of incidents which were the outbreak of environmental pollution. Today is the 10th one. Seveso, Italian dioxin crisis. On the midday of July 10, 1976, an explosion occurred in a TCP, that is 2,4,5 trichlorophenol reactor in the ICNESA chemical company in Neda, Italy. A toxic cloud escaped into the atmosphere containing high concentration of TCDD, a highly toxic form of a toxin. Downwind from the factory of the dioxin cloud polluted a densely populated area of 6 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide, immediately killing many animals. A neighboring municipality that was highly affected is called as Seveso. The accident was named after this village. The dioxin cloud affected a total of 11 communities. The media now mentions the Seveso in line with a major disaster such as Bhopal and Chernobyl, which have both become international symbols of industrially related disease. However, the Seveso story is remarkably different when it comes to handling the pollution and the victim because earlier accidents had shown that dioxin to be an extremely dangerous substance. Polluted areas were researched and the most severely polluted soils were excavated and treated elsewhere. Health effects were immediately recognized as a consequence of the disaster, and the victims were compensated. We buy life with money, actually. A long-term plan of health monitoring has been put into the operation. Several victims suffered from a directly visible symptoms known as chloroacne, but also from a genetic impairments. The Seveso accident and the immediate reaction of authorities led to the introduction of European regulation for the prevention and the control of heavy accidents involving toxic substances. This regulation is known as Seveso Directive. This directive was the central guideline for the European countries for managing industrial safety. The most remarkable feature of the Seveso accident was that local and the regional authorities had no idea that Planet was a source of a risk. The factory existed for more than 30 years, and the public had no idea of the possibility of an accident as it occurred in 1976. The European Directive was created to prevent such ignorance in the future and to enhance industrial safety. The Council of Ministers of the European Committee adopted the directive in 1982. The obligations and obligates appropriate safety measures and also the public information on the major industrial hazards, which is now known as the need to know principle. So, my dear friends, I leave a question to you all that do we really live that kind of world with a polluted environment? Do write to me your views on envtoxicol@gmail.com or Dr. Mamta @envtoxicology.com. So, to simply put it in Theodore Roosevelt's words, the wildlife and its habitat cannot speak, so we must and we will, and that's the reason we all are here. So, let's be kind to our Mother Nature. Now it's time for our fifth keynote address, which is to be delivered by Dr. Anil Kumar, Nani, who is the head of the Department of Environmental Science and Director, Gandhian Studies Center, Maharaja Ganga Singh University, Bikaner, Rajasthan, India. Sir, आपका बहुत-बहुत स्वागत है, अभिनंदन है. Professor Dr. Anil Kumar Shangani is an environmental ecologist, field biologist, and has 20 years of teaching and 25 years of research experience. Dr. Changani completed MA in Educational Psychology, MSc in Zoology, PhD and DSc from JND University, Jodhpur. His fields of specialization are desert ecology and behavioral studies on mammals and birds, genetic and virological studies with special reference to traditional environmental conservation practices, common property resources, environment planning, biodiversity conservation and management, climate change, environment impact studies. He served as the member of the IUCN World Conservation Union and Conservation International Birds and Mammal Species Survival Commission breeding specialist group from 2005 onwards. He has visited countries like USA, Japan, China, Thailand, Cambodia, Ethiopia, Nepal, and Bhutan, and delivered lectures at various forums as a visiting professor. By now, he has completed all 15 research projects. He published over 128 papers in international national journals with 820 citations and an AT index of 18 and I-10 index of 24. That's very amazing. In the last 20 years, he made and advised several national and international films and documentaries. Professor Changani received second time Chakravarti Award for writing best paper in the field of environment and wildlife by Indian Forester, Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education, Dehradun. Also awarded by the Conservation International USA in 1998, Golden Jubilee Year of Independence 1998 by State Government of Rajasthan, Conservation Award in 2000 from Ashoka Trust, Bangalore, and Marwa Ratna Award from Mehrangarh Museum Trust, Jodhpur, on Jodhpur Foundation Day in 2006, State Award, Government of Rajasthan in 2007. Best Paper Award by the Zoological Society of London, in 2009, the Fateh Singh Wildlife Conservation Award on 1st March 2020 with selfless and the varied efforts over the conservation and protection of wildlife in Rajasthan by Tiger Watch Foundation, Ranthambore. Recently, Maru Ratna Award on 12th July 2021 by Desert Environmental Conservation Association. Dr. Changani, let me congratulate you for your wonderful CV. It was such a pleasure reading it out and very exhaustive. I don't know how many years you have put in to make such a wonderful CV. Now I would request Dr. Anil Kumar Changani to start with his keynote address. So the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Professor Mamta Sharma, for this wonderful and overwhelming introduction. I'm thankful to Raj Rishi Govt Autonomous College, Alwar, for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences and issues with the best gathering. I'm also thankful to Professor Hukam Singh Ji, Principal of Raj Rishi Govt College. Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll just try to present my presentation and want to share screen. I request technical team to please help me out. The screen is visible?
No, sir, it's not visible yet.
Is it visible now?
No, sir. Sir, what you have to do is click on the arrow at the bottom. Yeah, now it's coming, sir. Now it's coming.
Okay, thank you so much. As we all know that we are living in a society where we make mistakes and we learn from our experiences. This is what we are doing with all kind of issue, whether it is a personal issue, whether it is a social issue, or whether it is an academic issue. And what happening in last, I can say almost 100 years, we are making some experiments with nature. We are making some experiments and researches on need basis. And those experiments might be good or bad. And some experiments gives us a result maybe after 25 years. By the time it is too late if it is wrong. So we must understand as a scientist, as an academician, that whatever we are heading for, whatever kind of technology we are heading for, whatever kind of research we are heading for, we must know some past and future of that particular region or that particular issue or that particular area. So today I'm just confining my talk around the environmental pollution in our day-to-day life and what kind of management practices we are heading for in Western India, in special reference to Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, and this Thar desert area. And we have recently faced a severe global epidemic as COVID, and we know how it happens. Okay, is it visible? So this disease come from or originated from China. There might be some issues and some arguments of that, but that is a fact. And why it happens? Because we have disturbed our environment so much. We are going on for so many experimentations. And it is the result of such experiments. So, life needs cost. What we human did in the past, that is very clearly visible in these images. We have destroyed the nature like anything. And now with our experience, so-called techniques, we are heading for oxygen. We are transporting oxygen and we are killing the natural sources. This is what we need to pay in our future also if we are not heading in a right direction. So the constant support for our day-to-day life, our survival, comes from nature. Mahatma Gandhi very well said that nature can fulfill the requirement of every creature on the earth. It can meet with the need, not the greed. So we must understand if we do some sustainable disturbance to the nature, we extract some resources in sustainable way, that is going to help us and our coming future generation. Otherwise, in our this life, we are going to face so many problems in the coming years, like COVID. If we are not respecting our surroundings, if we are not respecting our surrounding environment, environmental issues, natural resources. So, as we know that around us in Thar desert, there are thousands of plants, hundreds of grass species, more than 2,000 animal species, and millions of livestock surviving on natural resource around us. And there are more than 30 million human population surviving. And n number of wild animals of different species are also supported by these mother nature surrounding areas for their day-to-day life and their survival. So things are very okay. I talk some 25 or 30 years before, or for that matter 50 years before. The people in rural setups having their livelihood sources as per the regional conditions, local conditions. They are not 100% agriculturist. They partially dependent on pastoral life. And wildlife is around us in the village ponds, common property resources. We can see so many birds, mammals, and reptiles around us. So I just give you a small image, what kind of village life we are heading for. Still, it is exists in some part of the thought. Mother Nature. The daily life is very soothing, very smooth. And people were collecting natural resources around and selling it to the market in the urban areas and getting their livelihood, getting their nutritional support from nature, improving their immunity through natural resources. And life around villages. All kind of mammalian taxa can be seen in the village areas, the rural setups around that. Even for that matter, urban setups as well. There are many commensal animals in the cities. In Jaipur, Jodhpur, we have a red-faced monkey, Hanuman Gangoots around us. Reptiles as biological pest controller. So many reptile species in this particular region of the country. So many small mammals as pollinators. So many insects and butterflies around us. So the various geographical conditions allows the local gene pool to survive and sustain in that particular environmental condition. And this is just an overview of desert landscape. So suddenly, some 50 or almost 55 years before, the Green Revolution comes in existence. So we left the traditional agricultural practices and go for the rigorous farming and flood irrigation in the Thar Desert. And introduction of Indira Gandhi Nehar, IGNP, in Thar Desert. Earlier, it was introduced by Maharaja of Bikaner, and that canal known as Ganga Canal from Harike. And with the introduction of canal, what we did, we just forget about our own natural resources, our own water bodies, and they are depleting nowadays. So wherever the canal comes, people getting water for their drinking purposes and agricultural purposes, but in presence of canal, we made a blunder mistake that ignoring our own natural water resources in Thar Desert, and as a result, people are facing crises in many of the area where there is no canal. So this Indira Gandhi Canal specification, if you see, the length is almost 650 kilometers. And now it's almost extended up to Jaisalmer and Barmer. And use of pesticide. With the extension of agriculture in Thar Desert, we are heading towards the use of pesticide, and ruthless pesticide, I must say. We are not educated our society, we are not educated our farmer, we are not educated and aware then about the consequences of excess use of pesticide. So this normal condition becomes an environmental pollution and health hazard. So in the 1960s, there was a concern about the feeding the large human population. So we go through the Green Revolution. And we go for the hybrid seed, the modern agriculture and pesticide and chemical seed treatment and all kind of chemical and modern practices has been exist. And what happened? Punjab has taken the sole responsibility to filling all the stomach of the country. And I was shifted in Bikaner in 2011. And there is a train from Bhatinda, Punjab. And people used to know that as a Cancer Express. That honestly take my attention over there, and when I go through the information and data available, almost 400 patients daily visiting Bikaner, because Bikaner has the oldest chemotherapy hospital, the cancer hospital, PBM hospital. It was built during British time by the Maharaja of Bikaner. And as per the government record of Punjab, 34,000 people died last year due to cancer. Can we imagine this? That this small introduction of green revolution, an unsystematic growth and unaware, uneducated way of farming, ruthless use of pesticide, heading towards a mass mortality in this region. And that slowly extended in part of Haryana and part of Rajasthan as well. People from Ganganagar, people from Hanumangarh, people from Bikaner, facing a lot of problem of various diseases, various type of cancers. And above all, this canal water comes from Punjab, also carried a lot of pollutants. And there are government disputes and discussions and meetings and so on. But on ground, things are very hazardous. Pollution from all the industries, all the effluents from the industry, from Punjab, from Pagwara, and that comes to Indira Gandhi Canal and that reaches to the Thar Desert and core of the people. And it is in the ecosystem now. This all kind of contamination is in ecosystem, whether it is agro ecosystem, whether it is wildlife area, whether it is human life. And every now and then, as soon as the canal clean, they release the water, and the dirty water comes from the industries, and lot many scientific studies and press notes, and people are doing work, and what kind of heavy metals are coming in this water, what kind of contamination of nitrate or arsenic. So I'm not going in a detail. I'm just showing you the brief present scenario and what kind of environmental hazards we are having. Not only life, even the human milk is polluted. Pollutants were reported in human milk, and that has been reported in India, in various parts of the world as well. So first time it was detected, DDT, in 1951 in the human milk. Since then, the DDT and other contaminated chemicals were banned in Europe and America. In India, still it is being used. And besides this, in the recent years, the additional chemicals have been determined in the human milk. Among those, the ethyl, polybromide, methyl, hexachlorobenzene, and lot many other contaminations which we cannot imagine in the mother's milk. It is available, and it is rightly entered in the food chain, humans. And since our children are on the top of food chain, so they are suffering nowadays. So we need to think twice what we are heading. Another environmental hazard with the extension of agriculture, with the introduction of canal, people are burning their agricultural waste, also known as parali. And that releases in the atmosphere carbon monoxide, NO2, SO2, CH4, along with lot many other hazardous and hydrocarbons. And that state go to the atmosphere, and people lives in and around Punjab, in Haryana, in Delhi, facing this problem, and we every now and then hear in the news smoke. So this air pollution leads to respiratory diseases, eye irritations, bronchitis, asthma, etc. So in one way, we are introducing or we are making some experiments, but we fail to manage that. We fail to implement the laws as per the acts. As a result, we are facing a lot many threats to the human life nowadays. So these are the kind of diseases every month when they are putting this agricultural waste on fire. And this is the image given by NASA, and every now and then we can see on Google search, if you go for the Google finding the what kind of smog and where is the crop burning is going on, you can see the red spots throughout the Punjab and part of Haryana and part of Rajasthan. Similarly, the industrial waste in the cities, metros like Jaipur, Jodhpur, the industrial waste goes to the rural landscape, the wildlife landscape, and people are using that water as an agricultural source. But this contaminated water comes with a lot many heavy metals, lot many pollutants, which create problems for wildlife as well. This is an image of Dawa Doli on the way to Barmer from Jodhpur. It's almost 60 kilometer industrial waste, creating havoc in the wildlife area. Animals are forced to drink the contaminated water, including blackbuck, chinkara, blue bull, wild goats, and peacocks. As a result, the pure water is not available to them, not in any form of life. It is not been used by animals, by wild animals, all kind of domestic animals. As a result, animals are dying because of the heavy metals and contamination in the water, and they become victim of drugs. And as an academician, as a scientist, we came the report. So this is a very old image, and this problem is still going on. This is an image, and we have given these images to the local press, and they published in 2013. Still, the problem is same. Interestingly and unfortunately, this area belongs to the Vishnoi community. So the community which sacrificed their life for Mother Nature, almost 363 people died some 300 years before in 1730. And now in the same area, the people are heading for agriculture with this polluted water. And they don't aware about this, that this water is harmful to their health and their wildlife around. That total effluents come from Boranara industrial area. And it is almost 60 kilometers spread. Similarly, in Kota, Chamberlain industrial area is affecting crocodile like anything. Animals are dying and they are facing serious problem of white skin. If we talk about the environmental contamination like diclofenac, it's a chemical used for veterinary drug, killed so many vulture species. As a result, that vulture becomes extinct in many parts of the country, in long-billed and white-ruffed vulture. And recently, some contamination and some poisonous substance given to a carcass, spread over the carcass to kill the prey species, predators of that particular area, leopard, tiger. But unfortunately, that carcass has been eaten by the vultures, and most of the vultures eating that contaminated poisonous carcass killed. So when we are making some experiments, we are suggesting some experiments to the nature. This is a small example that Forest Department of Rajasthan has planted Prosopis juliflora. You can see this, it's here. In 1917 and 18, it's Prosopis juliflora. Now what happened? All kind of natural environment has been encroached. All local vegetation has been disappeared from this area. And Prosopis juliflora throughout the common property resources, the community reserves and wildlife areas. And now again government going for eradication of Prosopis juliflora. So what we are doing with nature is really very ununderstandable. You cannot imagine how a planners, how a policy makers can once go for the plantation of Prosopis juliflora, keep that for a few years and put in public money in that, and after 10 or 15 years they go for the eradication. And in the recent past, the energy resource in the Thar Desert, that also creates a lot of problems for the local environment. As I have been fortunate enough to be part of this environmental impact assessment studies in 1999 and 2000 onwards in Jaisalmer and in Barmer and in Jalore area of oil exploration of cave project. And what happened when you explore the oil, there are some gases released by that well beds. And these well beds were put on fire. And that atmospheric fire gives high raise in temperature. And local ephemerals, local flora, local pollinators, local insects disappear from that area. So by knowingly or unknowingly, we are making some mistakes which are very hazardous to our local environment. So this is the pipeline. Now they are taking from Barmer to Jamnagar. And also this pipeline is incubated and given high temperature to get the proper flow in the oil. Because this oil is very thick. To make it flowable, they give a incubated heating pipeline. And that pipeline kills lot many reptiles, lot many soil microbes and polluting the ground. Similarly, we are using chemical paste. Definitely they are well experimented and laboratory tested and given to the insect rodents in the field. But what happened? How many useful animals have been killed by these poisons and these pest control chemicals? No one knows. And they mostly kills pollinators. The useful insects has been killed by the pesticide and such kind of pest control methods. But interestingly, our ancestors historically conserved. They give each and every attention to the all creatures. Even they, this is the image from Desno Pratimati temple. There are carving and beautiful insects have been carved on the marble. Educate and aware and read the importance of this insect. So this solar energy, Rajasthan is the largest state in solar energy production, but at what cost? It has been called green energy. So we are destroying our environment. We are cutting green trees to put the solar plates, as we can see in the image. Without that, these plates cannot be settled or they cannot be fixed. So thousands of khejri tree, which is the cult crux or the state tree of Rajasthan, has been destroyed in hectares together. Similarly, with the wind turbines, the great Indian bustard has been killed with the blades of the wind turbine, which is a scheduled species. And at one hand, we are getting revenue from energy, and other hand, we are killing the threatened and scheduled species, for which Government of India and Ministry of Environment, Forest and Wildlife Institute spending crores of rupees to protect these species in nature. So this is an image of solar plant. You can see around. It's very well cleared ground. No vegetation, as you can see, some vegetation here, some vegetation here, but no vegetation around this solar energy park. And that's the present scenario of Thar Desert, especially Bikaner, Jaisalmer, Barmer. These districts are heading for massive massive solar plants and clearing so many indigenous tree and native species. So same, we can aware people, we can suggest policymakers. We are not against the green energy, but we are coming with some suggestions and some recommendations. As I was referring in the introductory slides, the canal has been extended more than 600 kilometer length, and their tributaries are also hundreds of kilometers. So why don't you put solar plates on these canal in Thar Desert? So that gives a dual benefit. At one hand, you are getting your solar plates on the canal, and other hand, you are controlling the water wastage through evaporation. And this open wiring and energy transmission kills a lot many birds and mammals in this particular area, electrocution as well. So I think education and awareness is the only tool. Further, the agriculture irrigation department should have a meeting. They must have some trainings with the panchayat, and they must educate the local community how this pesticide and land use pattern change, how these energy experiments, how this use of pesticide, how this modern agriculture, how treatment of seeds can affect their health. And we need to have regular medical checkup in that particular area, especially the canal area. So this is what we are doing. We are educating and trying to aware people how minimize they can destroy the local environment and can protect their environment and natural resources for the coming years. This is the need of time. We need to educate and aware our school children. And this COVID situation gives some alarming call to the society, some alarming shift to the policymakers. Local people are understanding that how valuable these common property resources and the land around us. We must use the traditional practices. People are agitating for developmental programs, for solar, for introduction of canal, excess use of pesticide. And their regular agitation shakes local authority and judiciary. What happened? As a result, ISTTP has withdrawn the land allotted to the business house because it belongs to the people and it is more utility land for the livestock and for local biodiversity. You're heading for solar plants, almost 1452 giga land can be destroyed in a year. And without impact assessment, how one can go for the green energy? I think this is the biggest challenge for us. We must understand the real value of that land and we must go for a rigorous environment impact assessment to understand the local cost. What kind of land is utilized for what kind of programs? We cannot simply say this is a wasteland. No, it is not a wasteland. It contains thousands of floral and faunal species in it. It gives a livelihood support to the locals. It gives food and fodder to the local livestock and humans. So there is an urgent need to understand the nature. We must go for environment impact assessment for such a developmental program, whether it is introduction of canal, whether it is use of pesticide, modern agriculture, or power plants. And any kind of developmental program should be reviewed in advance, make some pilot studies, see the impact, and then implement in a larger area. Otherwise, it is too late. Thank you so much. I'm thankful to organizer of this training program, Raj Rishi Govt College. I'm thankful to my Vice Chancellor for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences with you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will be happy if there is any question. That's it.
Any questions, please? Please raise your hand so we can unmute. We can see the faces, but no raising hands as of now. I have a question for you, Dr. Chandani. You
Please.
spoke about pesticide toxicology, right? And since I'm also a pesticide toxicologist, so we all know that how toxic DDT is and how bad BHC is and how bad endosulfan is. But in India, these pesticides are still very much readily available on the name of public health sector. So any views on that?
I think our monitoring system and our implementing agency need to think about it. There are many pesticides and herbicides we are using which have been banned in Western countries.
Yes.
And in fact, for that matter, the human drinks. Even you can take example of Pepsi Cola or Coca-Cola. The kind of labeling on Indian products is totally different than the European.
True.
You can see very clearly they are not giving a clear information about the use of pesticide in like Pepsi or Coke or anything. So our implementing agency should think about it, and the Central Pollution Control Board, State Pollution Control Board must monitor these units and these products and these pesticides.
Hope you will agree, Dr. Sangani, economy has taken over ecology, right? So money plays an important
Yes.
role. All the herbicides which are, or carbamates which are used by the Western countries or the world developed countries, they are very costly if we talk in terms of India or other countries. So now it's time for the formal thank you. Dear Dr. Sangani, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking out time from your busy schedule to be the keynote speaker at ISTTP 2nd. You spoke on present environmental pollution and management practices in Western India. Your presence and voice was helped to magnify our cause in the best possible way. All thanks to your enlightening words that inspired so many people out here, including me. And thank you so much for sharing beautiful pictures as always you do. You spoke about pesticide toxicology, and I told you I'm the toxicologist, so it charmed me more. And pesticide being the potent carcinogens, mutagens, and teratogens, so the answer to the increasing cases of cancer is here. Human milk is the purest feed for the neonate you mentioned, but it is also contaminated with DDT. So now we can see the extent and the magnitude of the pollution. I agree with you that unawareness and no education is the biggest threat to environment. We look forward to have you with us again. Thank you so much. Thanks for your presence.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now it's time for the sixth keynote address to be delivered by Dr. Rashmi Tyagi. Dr. Tyagi is a science communicator who is highly qualified and experienced educator. She has been in the field of education for last 25 years. She has done graduation from BHU and post-graduation and PhD in chemistry from IIT Roorkee. She's a gold medalist at B.Ed and did M.Ed from Mumbai University. She takes keen interest in research work. She has had a diverse position in the academic arena. She has taught chemistry at degree level in the prestigious universities like MS University of Baroda and University of Mumbai. She has developed professional competencies through training program at IIM. She has attended numerous orientation programs and workshops in the field of teaching and learning science. She has attended CBSE Principal Training Program at IIM and NCERT. She has also presented her paper in various fields like chemistry, environment science, rural agriculture practices, innovative teaching methods, nanotechnology, pedagogy, etc. She has brought tremendous change in many rural school environments. She is organizing camps for spreading awareness among rural women about breast cancer and health consciousness. She has taken up Save the Cow project in CBSE school. She is giving training to teachers and students regarding scientific skills, life skills, adolescent education, work education, problem solving skills, and stress management. She received Ideal Principal Award and Educationist of the Year Award in 2012. For the past 10 years, she is working for the scientific awareness in the rural areas of Maharashtra and has launched a project on indigenous advantages of cow urine and dung, sponsored by Masage Niketan, Mumbai. Now I request Dr. Rashmi Tyagi to start with her keynote address. मैम आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत अभिनंदन. आप तो फैमिली है हमारी और हम चाहते हैं आपका आपका आशीर्वाद इसी तरह हम पे बना रहे. आपका एक बार फिर से बहुत बहुत अभिनंदन और स्वागत.
Namaskar and welcome all of you. And I will say that it is my pleasure to be a family of the institutes, the great institutes. You are those who are working for the environment concern. And right now, people might be thinking that it is just another, conference. But I feel it is not just a conference. It is that the people who are trying to save the humankind, trying to save the planet. So that is the congregation today in which I'm sharing my thoughts with you. And as I was selected and awarded as a science communicator in Indian Science Congress Association conference. So from that time, I decided that I will not present the pure research type of talks, but I will try my best to do it for the general people and for the awareness. So like we were hearing to such great scholars, so they have done their wonderful contribution to this conference, but I'm going to talk in a very general way. And I call myself, an environmentalist in the way that whatever I'm doing in the society, in the schools, colleges, to just have the awareness that we have to save our environment. As the topic goes today, past, present, and future. So I will say it as per my personal experiences. And when you say past, then we have to go back to the past. That means when we were children. So that time, and many of you will have the same feeling which I am having, that that time the environment was very pure and the weather cycle was stable because there was no climate change that time. So we used to have the rains on time. We used to have the summers and winters on time. And winters में कड़ाके की सर्दी पड़ती थी, गर्मियों में लू चलती थी, बरसात में अच्छी बरसात होती थी. We used to enjoy, going out in the rains. But is the same thing happening today? That we have to see. And in the small cities, we used to sleep outside in the summers. Of course, we used to have mosquito net, but in the night, we could see a clear sky. We could see the stars. We could see Saptarishi Mandal. And you might remember that. And especially those people who are from, clean, small cities. And that time we were very happy. We used to swim, even in the streams. We were going to the village, and there we used to have a dip in the small streams for irrigation. And in the IIT Roorkee also, because my father was there at that time when we were children. So we used to swim in that Olympic size swimming pool. And we never used to get, like any disease or any fever or anything. So the past was really good, because these types of, pesticides and fertilizers were not being used for agriculture. Our soil was pure. And I was going to the village, and in the village, we used to take out the sugar cane, and then we used to eat it without washing it. And during the, times when the mangoes were there, we used to climb and we used to pluck these mangoes, and we used to eat without washing, without cutting, just like that. And we were very healthy. So this is what I'm telling, that it was a different environment that time. Altogether, a different environment. And in the village also, we used to see that we used to have, those composting and that kind of, and pesticide, we used to have the leaves of neem tree. So that was the past, very clean environment. But then present, what is there in the present? I'm living in Mumbai, and I think it is better than what is there in Delhi. It is better than Delhi because we have got sea, and all the pollution, it goes in towards the sea when the winds are there. But many a days we see the fog in the air, or maybe very dusty sky. And in the night, we are not able to see the stars. This is what is happening. And the food which we are eating, it is not that good, because in the, grapes, they are using pesticides. So we have to keep it in the water, and we have to wash it thoroughly. How we used to pluck these, fruits from the trees, that directly now we are not able to eat. We have to wash it. And even the vegetables, there are also lots of pesticides, because they want to have good, quantity of a particular vegetable or a particular fruits. So they are using pesticides as well as the, chemical fertilizers. So people are really having so many diseases because of that. And the jaundice is there due to the water. And in the swimming pools, they are using lots of chlorine. So the chlorine water is there, and we don't know if we can dip in the streams in the villages now, because they are already so much contaminated. So that is the present. And I remember few days back, my kitchen help, she said that I want to hospitalize my father to the hospital. So she was needing 2 days leave. I asked her what happened. She said that every year we used to buy the earthen pot for cooling the water in the month of, say, April. But now in the March, it was so hot and I could not buy that earthen, pot. And my father, he got dehydrated. So he had to be hospitalized. It means that that is the clear indication of the climate change. What kind of summers were there? It was starting in the month of April. Now it is starting in the month of March only. Only that we have to see it is a temporary climate change and we should not make it permanent. And I don't know in Mumbai when we are going to have rains. Every year we have the rains, monsoons in the early June or maybe in the last week of May. So that way it is clear indication of that. And all these diseases, jaundice, whenever the rains are there, the jaundice is there because our water gets polluted and contaminated. So that is why we are getting this kind of thing. So that is the present. Now, what are we supposed to do in the present? And I've heard from a person who is working for climate change. He told me that now the Maharashtra government is going to measure what is the amount of toxicity in the atmosphere, and accordingly they are going to direct the schools whether to open today or not, or maybe in the few weeks, for how many days, on which particular day it should be closed due to the pollution, lots of pollution in the air. So these things have come in the present. Now we have to take care that in future it should not be there. And we have to clean our air, we have to clean our water. So how we can do that? We have to see that how we can clean our water. And for that, I think the awareness in the people, it is very important. We have to do the awareness in the people. And because, the scientists, those who are present here, I know they are the great scientists. But in the last conference also, I said, whether it is there in their agenda that they are doing some awareness or they are just contributing their best research to the conferences, to the, already aware people. So I want that we should do the awareness of all these findings, all these research in a, this science communicator, as I am trying to do. And that way, if we will tell the people that the heating of the environment is taking place due to all these emissions, and it is getting heated, and it is getting heated very much. And because of that heat, the climate change is taking place. So we have to do the awareness. And then I will request Muskan ma'am just to show a video which I have just made for the awareness, and it is very generic, and but it will definitely make aware the people. Kindly, Muskan, share that.
Ma'am, you want me to show the first, second, or third video? You had sent me three.
The first
Okay.
one.
Okay, ma'am.
Which I am talking of the environment.
Yes, ma'am. Awareness, yes.
I have used the posters prepared by the students to just get this awareness. So that is there. And, I'm connecting to you people, and see the ladies, they have the kitties and all that. I don't go for kitties, but I go for such conferences where we can interact. And all of you can see that the sound is not there. Muskan, can you do that? Hello, Muskan? see it is those.
Ma'am, there is a little bit issue with the sound.
No problem. I will talk. So, see, I was in Bangalore that day, and our bungalow, it was surrounded by so many trees in Koramangala. So here I want to tell you that we have to save the Mother Earth. That is important. We have to save our planet, and see how beautiful posters are there, that shadow with an umbrella, because then only if we are saving the environment, then only we can save the humankind. And we should plant such big trees. And this tree, the people tree on our bungalow, it is maybe more than 100 years old. And it is on the terrace, the whole branches of this tree is on the terrace. And we are just sending so many emissions into the atmosphere due to through those factories and other emissions. And even the water has got contaminated. And all the sea animals, they are contaminated, and the soil is very much contaminated. And that way, because of that, this environmental pollution and this heating of the environment is taking place. And this is an ice cream, and the earth is kept on that. And the earth is very unhappy that snow caps are melting on the mountains. So we have to stop that. We have to make people aware. And I think it has stopped. Muskan ma'am, has it stopped there? Okay, fine. I think I have given that message to everyone that, okay, you can show the third one also. See, as an environmentalist, I was traveling to Badrinath, and then I just got down, and then there was a brook, and I'm trying to explain that after the melting of the snow in the normal manner, the snow is melting and it is coming through the mountains, and then it is the water from the Himalayas, it is being poured into the river Ganga. And then from Ganga, it is going to the whole country. And this is how the snow caps, they are good for us. If the environment is not heated by the activity of the man, then we will be able to save the, all the caps, all the tops of the world, like the Himalaya. You can stop it now. Thank you so much. So we can save we have to save the Himalaya. And how we can save the Himalaya? That all these heating of the environment should not take place. So for that, even if we are telling the scientists, the scientists are getting the research done, it is wonderful. But whether the message is going to the general public or not, to the government or not, and if it is going to different countries, it is going to the governments, then are they curbing such activities so that this kind of emissions which are heating and which are putting the carbon into the atmosphere? So we have to capture the carbon which is in our atmosphere, and then we have to put it back into the soil. And in the soil also, what we find that its quality is getting, very less. The quality of the soil is not good. We should have rotation of crop there. And we should convert this carbon into some kind of a thing which is useful for the soil. So we should try to save our atmosphere, the air, the water, and the soil, the land. And I remember that in the previous conference, Dr. Bakhtiar was there, Yahya Bakhtiar from Kashmir University. And he had given a wonderful talk that how the fishes, they are leaving their home in certain, environment inside the sea. Maybe the temperature which is required for them to flourish. So they are moving away. And then I asked somebody in Mumbai, a person, that when they are fishing, then what is their experience, past and present? And then they are telling me in the past, they were not going very deep into the sea for these particular fishes. But now they have to go very much into deep, and they have to find that this particular species of the fish is found in which area. So the sea also is changing. And I remember my PhD guide, Dr. W. Malik, he was the vice chancellor in the University of Kashmir. So that time when I visited Kashmir, you can say around 40 years back, it was really beautiful. And even the Dal Lake was really, it had transparent water. But when Dr. Yahya Bakhtiar from Zoology Department of Srinagar University invited us for the conference, then I had seen the Dal Lake was not that beautiful, and the Kashmir was not that beautiful. So in 40 years, lots of climate change has taken place. So that is my experience. So we have to see that water should be clean and the air should be clean. All of us, those who are sitting here, they know better than me that how to do it. But the awareness we have to do for all these things so that we can still curb it is not delay the climate change, but we have to stop the climate change. If we want the man to survive on this planet, the beautiful wildlife we are having, and even, humankind and all those things, because what could happen tomorrow if it is happening? The sea will come inside the Mumbai and other coastal areas. So we have to make aware of everyone, all the scientists, all the teachers, and all the social workers, environmentalists, and we have to start it very fast. Then only by, say, 2090, the temperature will be reduced and we will not have the climate change. And what I'm doing as a teacher, as a principal, and as a science communicator, as a scientist, we are contributing to the conferences, all our papers, and we are trying to make it aware our young students as per the NEP 2020 about the research based projects. And then what I have done, that I would like to show. So Muskan, could you show that PPT where our students are doing different kinds of activities?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So please show that. And in the colleges also, we are doing lots of awareness. We are inviting the parents, and we are telling them that in your city, this is what is happening due to the vehicles which are moving, and then what they are supposed to do. And then I have attended this ISCA conference at Bangalore. It was before, I think it was 2018 in the Agricultural University in Bangalore, and many farmers were invited there, and they were made aware that how they have to do this agriculture now. And then the climate change, we had explained to them, and what kind of fertilizers and pesticides, what are the new varieties of the plants which gives a better yield, so that we could do. Now, please, could you just start it, Muskan? Can we see the PPT? Environment education. See, I'm talking of the education now. So I'm integrating all these things with the education. And then I said it before also, that talking walls, as Alwar, it is the part of Rajasthan, and Rajasthan is really a beautiful place. Maharo Rang Rangilo Rajasthan. We just hear that thing, because as there are, I don't know right now what is the present situation, but we used to talk of the deserts. And the deserts are also beautiful. The people, they wear the, very, you can say red, bright reds, bright orange, bright yellow, bright green kinds of dresses, all the ladies. And then they are painting the walls of their houses with the messages. This is what I have done in one of the school, Bharti Vidyapeeth, CBSE school. I have invited the art teacher to, have a competition to write about the messages on the walls for the environment protection. And this is a very good way. And I've gone to Bangalore city, in Delhi, in Mumbai also. In the walls, some good messages are given. And I think that we should make a theme, a national theme, that save the environment. And every city in India, it should be adorned with these kinds of messages, which are maybe written by or presented by the scientists. Like, they have to ask the scientists that what kind of words they should use, and what kind of these terms, the scientific terms which can be understood by the general public. It should be there. So I think that contribution, that is my request to all of you. Please do that wherever you are. Now please move on to the second slide. That is the plantation drive. The photo is of the talking balls only. So we were telling the people in that area that in Mumbai, our students were going and they were organizing many plantation of the trees drive, and they were having those skits, awareness by the street plays, and they were doing the street plays. They were having this the boards with the slogans, and that one was a very good topic. The one student was sitting with a brown dupatta on his back, and others were just standing around him. So one of the students, she has poured water, like not exactly water, the action of water, and then the other put a green dupatta. So that kind of a thing, that they can understand that if we are just looking after the plants, then we can really do a great job. Like, because the plants, they help us in protecting the environment, absorbing the carbon dioxide, and preparing the food and all that. So that was plantation drives were very good, and everybody appreciated it, and they got the awareness. Next slide. And here in the school itself, our scout and guide students, I told them to just, with the gardener, they can do the beautification with their plant. And I tell you that there was, in the Bharati Vidyapit, there is a department of environment, education in Pune. They have got their very good campus in Pune, and that is outlined with small streams around the building, and that way they are having cooling effect. They are having lots of trees inside the campus, so that is giving a cooling effect. So if we are planting wherever it is possible, our houses, our gardens, our lawns, then we should plant the tree. It will purify our environment. So that way we should tell our children right from the beginning, as per NEP also, that they have to save the environment. They can have such projects, planting the trees, planting small, ornamental plants. Please go to the next slide. And in Maharashtra, we have got a very good awareness program, and this is known as Vraksh Dindi or One Mahotsav. So during some period, One Mahotsav we had organized, or Vraksh Dandi. You can see the small basket. This small basket, I am sitting with my students, and at the back there is a poster also, and inside that we are putting up the baby plants. And then throughout that Belapur in Mumbai, all the students and our teachers and even the police department takes interest into this, and they had also come. So we had taken round of the whole area, and then we had gone to a particular spot, and then we planted these trees. So that way, it was a social forestry department also was with us. So if we are going to include these government departments, forestry and all that, then we can really have a wonderful awareness in the villages and in the colleges, on the streets, and all these areas. And that is definitely going to save our environment. Please, next slide. Muskan. Yeah, in my school, then we were doing the, composting and vermiculture also. And that was the part of our green auditing, and also the waste management. So that was the project. And then they are making a shade. You can see a picture where the students are making a shade over the pit where the worms are, they are there. Worms they are making such a wonderful fertilizers. So if we are teaching our students, we are making them aware that vermicompost is good. And it was really quite interesting. And it was a multidisciplinary approach where, the science students, the math students, and the social science students, they all have done this project. And whatever food waste, and even the garlands from the temples, those they used to throw in the dustbins or somewhere. Our students used to collect it, and then the worms used to relish it, and they used to eat it very much. So that way, solid waste composting is done with earthworm. And worms reproduce as long as there is food waste available. If there is no food, the worms start to enhance texture, water retention, and soil structure. If you mix compost with soil, it enhances root development and soil fertility. And then they were selling it to the people, those who are having big gardens, and they were earning money. And that money they were, just for the charity, they were giving to some places where the deprived children were staying, and all that. So it was a good drive under my, administration. So I'm doing it from the very long time. Please show the next slide if it is there. And the gardening, the very act of gardening brings you more in tune with your environment. Gardens, no matter how small, are in microcosm of the larger environment. Although what we do in our small backyard, container garden, or community garden plot may seem insignificant, it really does matter. Imagine if each of this million household that garden followed environmentally responsible lawn care. So this is the message given by these students, that each and every house we should have whatever type of plantation or garden. So that's a very good message. I feel that way. And the next slide. And it was a very good program, Raksha Bandhan to the trees. In the month of August, to celebrate Raksha Bandhan, students got a unique idea of tying Rakhis to the trees around the school. By doing so, they once again, stressed upon the importance of trees and the need to preserve them. And from these classes, they participated in the event. A small rally was taken around the school first. Placards with tree conservation messages were carried by them to the trees around the school building, and then promise to take care of them. Like राखी किसलिए बांधते हैं? इसीलिए कि जिससे कि एक दूसरे के हम क्या ख्याल रखें. So that was the idea behind it, that we should take care of the trees because they are taking care of us. The next slide, if it is there. And the vermiculture, I've already explained it, that we were doing at different parts, and it is the same thing. So we were trying to collect whatever biodegradable waste was there in the school or around the area. Thank you. Next one. I think it is over now. And now I've got no more PPTs to show. And in the end, I will stress upon as a science communicator that we should do the awareness in the general public, because they are going to control the climate change, and we should do it in a very large scale. So that is my request to all of you, that the past, the present, it is good. Present is still good. We have got lots of water. We have got still the clean air. But the future we have to see. So for conserving the future, we have to do the awareness, and we have to curb the things which are polluting our environment, and the carbon capture and putting back into the soil. It is very important. So that is my message. आप बहुत सारे पेड़ लगाइए और अपने वातावरण को शुद्ध रखिए. धन्यवाद. It was my pleasure to be with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Tyagi. Any questions? Please raise your hand. Ashwini NS has raised the hand. Kindly unmute him. Ashwini NS. Any more? Someone, any questions? I can see a lot of faces, man, but no questions. So now it's time to thank Dr. Tyagi formally. Okay, we have a question from Ajay Kumar Gandhi.
Okay, you're welcome.
Unmute him.
Hello.
Dr. Gandhi, you can speak.
Good
Yes.
afternoon, madam. I may sound very pessimist when I ask this question, but that's the fact. Ma'am, is it possible that we can somehow, suggest such a solution to all these environmental issues where poor people or average income people will not get suffered, and still we can achieve in a limited time manner this restoration of ecosystem or restoration of this environmental issues? Do you think that is it achievable? Because many times I find that whatever the measures governments want to take or anybody suggests, that directly affect poor income people. So I may sound very pessimist, but that's the fact, madam, that I feel very disappointed that why all the time the poor people at that end get suffered, and we the more contributor of this all issues get suffered less because of our financial status or maybe intellectual levels, or we can easily migrate to other places to get away from all the heat waves and all these things. So I mean, what is your view or your say on this? And one more thing that I want to say that whenever I see you, madam, your grace, your energy, that really inspire me to look at the things the way one should look at the life, not as an academician, but as a person also. So I would really like to know that how you look at all these things, whether I am very pessimist or am I actually correct, but I did not be like that way of thinking process. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ajay Kumar, आपने जो बात कही है, you are not the pessimist. You are a visionary, that you know what is going to happen tomorrow. And then you said that the poor people should not suffer. And I want to tell you that the whole world, UNOs and WHO, they are talking of the same thing, that the poor people should not suffer. And all of you might have heard about, that how we can reduce the temperature of our atmosphere. And then how the electricity is produced. So your question is the most relevant in today's conference, all the conferences which are taking place for the environment today. And the coal mines, so many people, poor people, they are dependent on coal mines, and they are looking after their families after taking out the coal in such a bad way, and they are getting disasters. Hello.
मैडम ये बात वाले की दुकान पे हूँ मैं, ये जो ब्लैक वाला तो इनके पास
Hello,
सेल है,
I can't hear you, Ajay. Who is talking?
व्हाइट वाला है मैडम,
No, actually, madam is on call, the organizing secretary, madam.
So I can continue. So what I'm telling, that now देखिए,
दूसरी दुकान पे जाके अगर काला वाला शुरू हो सकता है तो
हाँ,
बहुत जरूरी है.
that these people, the world conferences are taking place. Many countries have opted out, that the electricity should not be produced by the coal. But at present, many countries, I will not take any names here, they are saying, no, it is giving us very good economic growth. So we will continue with that. But then there is one question, just carbon. Just carbon means not the carbon, but justice. What kind of justice to poor people who are dependent on these coal mines? When these coal mines are going to be closed, then we have to rehabilitate these people, so that they can survive. So both things are important, that we have to close these coal mines, but the affected poor people, we should just give them some kind of a, new employment. This is what is being discussed at the world level. Just carbon, give justice to the people. And then, as you said, that we are the real culprits. Even I'm a culprit to, just give the chlorofluorocarbons into the atmosphere. We can't sit without AC. In Mumbai, I'm telling you, this is just mid-April. And in the, bedrooms, we are always, the AC is on. Even our pets, my cat, she's sitting, she's not coming out of that AC room. So we are just the culprits, not the poor people. So we should control all these things, and we should look after poor people, and then we should have these plantation and agriculture. And as I told you in the beginning, that I was going to the villages because my grandparents were there, सब farmers थे पहले, आपको पता है. तो हम we used to enjoy. तो अभी हम लोगों को ऐसा ही सोचना चाहिए कि हम कितने दिन हम एसी चलाएं. कार में क्या हमेशा एसी चलना जरूरी है? और गांव में क्यों नहीं जाते हैं हम? अगर हमको बैलगाड़ी में हम लोग जाते थे, देखिए उस जमाने की बात है जब हम
once you attain certain level of comfort zone, no, then it's
Yeah.
very hard to get down to that level. So we always think about that when I get shifted to up level of the comfort zone, I need to be very careful and very cautious whether I'm harming environment, whether I'm harming or
Right.
causing bad effect on that thing. Yes, ma'am. And addition to this, yes, ma'am, you continue. I just
No,
interrupted.
you continue. I want to hear you. All of us
Yes.
want to hear you. Please
Yes,
continue.
actually, I'm assistant professor of chemistry at Government College of Arts and Science, Aurangabad, and I'm also an IQAC member also.
Okay.
What I suggested to my fellow faculty members, that we can do one thing: we can have a weekly or bi-weekly no vehicle day or cycling day, or
Right.
we can do pulling of the things like we have hierarchy like class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, and we have different this TA allowances also, transportation allowance. Can we do pulling of the things like every teachers coming from the area, he can think that I can give lift to some other person who can fall in the route of my destination place, and that way. But what happened, my words, maybe my experience fall short, and they don't get sensitized that way. So I want from you that, because madam, I'm totally fed of all the conferences and all the repetitive talks that this should be done and this should happen and that, and this we have done, but actual awareness or actual sensitization is not taking place. So what the way I should adopt, how I can sensitize, may not be my fellow teachers, faculty, seniors member, but at least my students, how I can sensitize them. I want to learn from you or hear from you what the quality I should bear on my face, or what attitude should I bear on my face, and what word I should use so they get sensitized. So that's I want to hear you from.
See, I've already talked about it. You can have such, environment education based projects, and the transformations in education has already taken place, which is project based. So all the, educators should decide that in colleges and in the schools, we should start at least 1 year, or maybe say 25% of our syllabus should be there for the environmental education. And आपने बिल्कुल कहा, ठीक कहा, why don't you have चल बसंती on the सड़क, like घोड़ा गाड़ी क्यों नहीं लेकर आते हैं आप? शोले पिक्चर में आप बहुत ज्यादा डायलॉग सुने आपने, और हर किसी को पसंद आया है मालिनी का. तो क्या अब घोड़े गाड़ी पहले बम्बई में चलती थी, आपको पता है विक्टोरिया चलती थी, तो क्यों नहीं हम लाते हैं? बैलगाड़ी को छोटे शहरों में आप रख सकते हैं, फिर हम बुल्स को भी यूज कर सकते हैं, छोटे डिस्टेंसेस के लिए हम यूज कर सकते हैं। तो थोड़ा तो इस तरह से भी अच्छा लगेगा ना, और कितना मजा आएगा घोड़ा गाड़ी में, तो सबको मजा आता है। मैं देखिए ये बात मैं पूरी तरह से कह सकती हूँ। तो ऐसे छोटी मोटी, और देखिए घोड़ा हम लोग वहां पर तो बीचेस पर तो ले जाते, घोड़े को भी ले जाते हैं और ऊंट को, लेकिन वो
हाँ।
ऊंट शायद नॉट गुड बिकॉज कैमल इज फ्रॉम द डेजर्ट। तो इस तरह की छोटी मोटी चीजें बच्चे लाइक करेंगे और एक अच्छा मैसेज जाएगा, और बड़ी क्लासेस में हम अच्छे मैसेजेस देंगे। तो हमें कुछ करना ही पड़ेगा। आप मेरे से कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं, यू आर फ्रॉम महाराष्ट्र ओनली, and
Yes.
you can take my phone number from madam, and you can contact, I can come to that colleges and we can go to the many colleges, we can have that kind of conference। और जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि ट्रांसपोर्ट भी, और एसी का कम से कम इस्तेमाल हो। अभी नई एसी ट्रेन बम्बई की सड़कों पर दौड़ने लगी है, मेट्रो दौड़ने लगी है। तो अभी हम कहाँ जा रहे हैं? अभी मैं तो आपसे क्वेश्चन पूछ रही हूँ अजय कुमार, मैं आपके क्वेश्चन का आंसर नहीं दे रही, मैं सबसे पूछ रही हूँ हम कहाँ जा रहे हैं, आपको पता है क्या? अगर आपको पता है तो अब आपको क्या करना है आप सोचिए। इतना ही मैं कहना चाहूंगी। आई थिंक सब मेरे से ज्यादा अवेयर हैं और मैं उनसे सीखना चाहूंगी।
People take pride.
Okay, because the time is very
Yes,
important.
people take pride in saying that they had 4 rounds of 4 kilometer round in the when they jog around the city, but they don't find this thing as proud thing that I go to college by walk and I take that distance. That pride
पूल
people
कार
don't want
पूलिंग
to
भी कर
show.
सकते हैं कार की, और
Yes.
यहाँ पर बॉम्बे में बहुत अच्छी पूलिंग हो रही है। और जैसे आप घोड़ा गाड़ी का कह रहे हैं, तो आप उनमें घोड़े को भी कंजर्व कर रहे हैं। देखिए आप एनिमल्स को कंजर्व कर रहे हैं, बैल को भी आप कंजर्व, सुंदर सुंदर सी गाड़ी हर जगह देखी। मैंने 5 स्टार होटल में बैल नहीं देखे, गाड़ी जरूर देखी है उनके लॉन में। तो एक जॉय राइड दे सकते हैं ना, नेशनल पार्क्स हैं वहां पर आप ये जॉय राइड्स, तो ये सब चीजें ये मैंने कहीं पढ़ी नहीं, ये आपने मेरे से क्वेश्चन किया तो मेरे दिमाग में ये थॉट्स आए। तो इस तरह की चीजें आपने बहुत अच्छी, शायद टाइम की वजह से हम इस बारे में, या वो तो आपको ममता मैडम और ये लोग बताएंगे, बट वी कैन इंटरेक्ट लेटर ऑन, एंड आई विल लाइक दैट यू इंटरेक्ट इन महाराष्ट्र विद मी।
Yes, thank you so much.
थैंक यू वेरी मच। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप सबका कि मैं आपसे कितना सीख रही हूँ। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर शेयरिंग दिस नॉलेज विद मी।
Thank you so much, Dr. Tyagi. And now it's time for the formal thank you to you. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for giving up your valuable time to talking ISTTP-2. It was a great pleasure to hear you and to talk about science, education, conserving environment. It was quite apparent that how every single person, including me here, was engrossed in your talk. And trust me, there's so much more to learn from you, your knowledge and your experience you are enriched with. It was treat hearing you always, ma'am. It was always a treat to hear you. And it seems that everyone is spellbound with your presentation, your years of research, your in-depth knowledge of understanding of user interfaces, your ability to present the subject in such an interesting way. That has given one of the best lectures in ISTTP-2. If you personally ask me, the subject is very interesting. I plan to learn more from you. You spoke about most important problem, that is climate change. वो कहते हैं ना कलयुग में प्रलय हो जाएगी, तो आप सही कह रही है मैम, हम कहाँ जा रहे हैं, हमें रुकना चाहिए, नहीं तो प्रलय सच में हो जाएगी, ग्लेशियर्स पिघल जाएंगे। एंड थैंक यू अजय फॉर योर contribution in taking this lecture to another level. It was very good interaction with ma'am, you and me, all three together, and all the people. Like right now, I have 240 people with me joining from different parts of the world. So I think we are doing something to conserve the environment. And definitely having 1 0 vehicle day, like we don't drive petrol driven vehicles, we don't drive diesel driven vehicles, and we can go for, like ma'am ने कहा कि हम carpool करके जा सकते हैं. So that is something we all can do, because whenever it comes to the conservation of the environment, it's like think globally, work locally. हम दुनिया की सोचें पर अपने करें कुछ अपने आप के साथ, अपने लेवल पे कुछ करें तो शायद एनवायरमेंट बच जाएगा। और मैम सबसे अच्छी चीज तो मुझे वो लगी रक्षाबंधन, टाइम राखी टू द ट्रीज, ट्रीटिंग देम लाइक अ लाइफ। हम तो बिल्कुल मतलब उनको ऐसे काट देते हैं कि जैसे उनमें लाइफ ही नहीं है। तो आई थिंक राखी गिव्स दैट फीलिंग कि हाँ ये भी कोई लिविंग चीज है। दैट वाज अ वेरी वेरी वंडरफुल इनिशिएटिव। आई कॉन्ग्रेचुलेट यू मैम फॉर टेकिंग सच ब्यूटीफुल इनिशिएटिव फॉर द एनवायरमेंटल कंजर्वेशन। थैंक यू सो मच। और मैं आशा करती हूँ आप हमारे साथ इसी तरह से जुड़ी रहेंगी, हमारी प्रेरणा बनकर। थैंक यू सो मच मैडम।
Thank you very much.
So now it's time for the seventh keynote address coming up by Dr. Abhishek Swarup. Dr. Abhishek Swarup is HOD Information Technology, Bhagwan Parshuram Institute of Technology, GGSITU, New Delhi, India. Professor Dr. Abhishek Swarup completed his BTech CSE from GBP University of Agriculture and Technology, MTech from Punjabi University Patiala, and PhD from NIT Kurukshetra. He has industrial experience of 8 years in organizations like USHA, Rectifier Corporations, and Envirotech Instruments Private Limited. He has 22 years of teaching experience. He has served in reputed education institutes such as JP Institute of Information Technology, Noida, Sharda University, Greater Noida, and Galgotias University, Greater Noida. He has served at various administrative positions such as head of the department, division chair, NBA coordinator for the university, head training and placement, and currently he is serving as a professor in the Natural Department of Information Technology in Bhagwan Parshuram Institute of Technology, Rohini, New Delhi. He is actively engaged in research. One of his PhD scholars has completed his PhD from NIT Kurukshetra and is currently supervising one PhD student from IIT Dhanbad and Dehradun and one student from APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, Lucknow. He has guided 10 MTech dissertations and numerous BTech projects. He has authored 3 books and 5 book chapters, and 14 chapters are indexed in DBLP and 10 papers in SCI. He had been part of organizing committee of 3 IEEE conferences, 3 Springer conferences, a technical program chair. He is a member of various professional societies like CSI and ACM and editorial board of various reputed journals. डॉक्टर स्वरूप आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है अभिनंदन है और I would request you to start with your keynote address and let me congratulate you for having such a wonderful career CV. Please go ahead, sir. Stage is all yours.
Thank you, ma'am, for the generous introduction. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
So I share my screen. My screen is visible to all of you?
No, sir, it's not visible yet. Now it is. Now it is. Yes, sir, now it is.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Mamta, for your generous introduction. Today I am going to give a talk on applications of wireless sensor networks in monitoring of environment, because this entire program is related to the environment. So basically the outline of the presentation is like this. I will introduce my connection with the environment and how we can monitor environment with the help of various things. Then we will discuss about the wireless sensor networks and what are the different components of wireless sensor networks, what are the areas in which wireless sensor network may be used, what are the design challenges while developing a wireless sensor network and having it used effectively. Routing in sensor network is another challenge, which is very major issue. We will discuss in detail, but the major focus will be on the challenges in environment monitoring and how the wireless sensor network can be used in it. We will discuss some case studies. That's the outline. So I am a computer scientist by training and profession. However, when I got the invitation for this program, I was thrilled because I am connected with the environment in a very deep manner. First of all, my Tauji, late Dr. G.D. Agrawal, because Swami Sanand is considered as the India's first trained environmental scientist. He did his PhD, MS and PhD from UCLA, Berkeley, and he was the professor at IIT Kanpur and head of the Department for Environmental Science. He was the first member secretary of the Central Pollution Control Board, and he developed the laws for the environment monitoring and all these things. But the major achievement or major goal which he achieved, he tried to get the water flow of Ma Ganga unhindered and he partially succeeded in that. But in order to fully get it executed, he gave his life in a fast unto death after 118 days of fast. So I was deeply associated with him, and he was my source of inspiration. That's why I am secretary of Guru Ganga and Aurotech Trust, a trust which was founded by Dr. G.D. Agrawal. And I worked as R&D engineer in Envirotech Instruments Private Limited, Delhi, which is a company which indigenously developed air pollution monitoring instruments. And this was the first organization. Before that, we used to import air pollution monitoring instruments, but Envirotech Instruments indigenized this, and this is a pioneer in its area. So after that, the phenomena which can be monitored can be controlled. If we want to control global warming, or if we want to control melting of glaciers, or if we want to control air pollution or water pollution, we need to monitor it. And environmental conditions need to be monitored on 24/7 basis in order to get sufficient data so that we can find some meaningful insight and we can control it. So generally the environmental monitoring needs to be done in difficult terrain, whereas manpower deployment is not easy. Suppose we want to measure the emission of a chimney. So it is not easy someone to manually go there and measure the concentration of a particular gas. Or if we want to see the condition of glaciers in winter, where the temperature is -30 or -40, it is not easy to put a station there and monitor, collect data on a day-to-day basis. And if you want to set up a wired network in these areas, it is very difficult to set up, because you can set up a wired network in a city or in a village, but if you have to set up a wired network in a jungle or in a glacier, on a river, on a sea, in a sea, it is not easy. Second thing is that cost of sensor nodes has come down significantly. With the invention in electronics, the cost of sensor nodes has come down significantly. We can have a sensor node around $10 to $15, and we can deploy thousands of such sensor nodes to monitor our environment in a different terrain and different conditions. So considering all these factors, wireless sensor network is a popular and viable solution for monitoring the environment in an efficient and cost-effective way. So this is the topic of my talk, how we can monitor environment phenomena in different terrains with the help of wireless sensor network. Kindly give me 1 minute to close my throat. Actually, it is the lunch time and the students are roaming. So kindly excuse me. So before going to that, I will give you a brief introduction of wireless sensor network. Basically, wireless sensor network consists of small nodes which will sense some parameter and will perform some computation, and they will communicate with each other. The wireless sensor network is a network consisting of spatially distributed. Two, three things are important here. First thing, these are spatially distributed. That means geographically they may be apart. Second thing is the autonomous devices. These are autonomous devices. These can work independently. These use sensors to sense environmental parameters, and they cooperate with each other to monitor some physical or environmental condition. What kind of conditions they are capable of, that depends upon what sensor you put in the sensor node. The sensor may be, there may be temperature sensor, there may be sound sensor, vibration sensor, pressure sensor, motion sensor, light sensor, and so on. And we will put these sensor nodes in thousands in the area under consideration. Just in whatever area we are planning to set up a study, we place sensor nodes. We can drop them by air. We can physically go and place them at particular place. And if it is so difficult, we are not able to go there, we can drop these by a drone and so on. So that saves a lot of our efforts. So what are the different components in a wireless sensor network? The most important thing is basically an assembly of sensor. इसमें and that sensor will be having, suppose you can say it like this. This is the there will be some sensors. There will be temperature sensor, humidity sensor. There will be a processor, which will be for computation, and transmitter and receiver. What are the nodes? What are the different components of a sensor assembly? I will tell you later, but we need some interconnecting wireless network. So one sensor is suppose placed here, one sensor is placed here, one sensor is placed here, one sensor is placed here, and so on. They need to communicate with each other. And for that purpose, we need transmitter as well as receiver. They exchange information with each other, and we need a central point for information gathering. That may be at some base station, and all the information will be reaching to this base station. These are my sensor nodes. The information will process from here to here, here to here, here to here, so, and ultimately it will reach to the central point where the information can be stored. Here we need to perform data analysis to gather meaningful information about the phenomena or about the area which we are planning to study, right? So what is a sensor? First of all, we must understand the sensor is a transducer which converts a physical phenomena into electrical signals. For example, temperature is there. We have a temperature sensor. The temperature sensor will sense the temperature. Suppose it is, say, 40 degrees centigrade. It will convert it into an electrical signal. And then there are devices with the help of which we can sense this electrical signal and again convert back to the numerical value, which can be used for calculation purpose. We can have temperature sensor, we can have wind speed sensor, wind direction sensor, light sensor, motion sensor, pressure sensor, vibration, sound, and there are many more. We can design sensor for any phenomena. So what are the design challenges? Once we just okay. So this was about the sensor. When I talk about the sensor node, I am talking about sensor node. This consists of sensors ke alawa there are certain other things which are also part of this assembly. What are those things? It contains some sensors. There may be one or more sensor, at least one sensor to hona chahiye. There is a processor which will process the data. Although this processor will be having limited capabilities. The capabilities will be limited. The memory will also be very small. It will not be a very large memory. This can be in KB, not in MB or GB, because the cost, otherwise the cost will increase. If I take a powerful processor or a large memory, the cost will increase. I will not be able to deploy more sensors. The most important part for communication is a transceiver, a transmitter and receiver. With the help of this sensor node will be able to communicate with other sensor nodes. And we need a power source ultimately, because we cannot provide AC supply in the hostile terrain such as rivers or forests or glaciers. We need our sensor node to be battery backup. There is a battery which provides power to all the components of a sensor node. Right. So what now we talk about we have discussed the sensor node. Now we talk about the sensor sensor network. It consists of large number of sensor nodes. First thing is that since WSN is not of 5 or 10 nodes. 5 or 10 nodes ka nahi hota. There are thousands of nodes. Thousands. This network consists of thousands of nodes. These nodes are deployed either inside or very close to the sense phenomena. We need to, we can do one thing. Suppose this is, we want to do a river monitoring. We can deploy our sensor nodes either submerged in the water, or we can put it near the river shore. That depends upon what kind of parameter we want to measure and where we want to put our sensor nodes. Now, once these sensor nodes start accumulating data, start sensing data, they basically communicate with each other and they exchange information with each other. Ultimately, the information has to be aggregated. They will aggregate the information, and this is passed to a central processing unit. And this central processing unit will perform data analysis, and will find meaningful insight about the site. Right. So that's the thing. Now we talk about the wireless sensor network applications. We can apply wireless sensor network in any area. Now, this IoT, Internet of Things, is also very closely related with WSN. The only difference is that here my sensor network is connected with the internet. So if it is contained, if WSN is connected with the internet, we can call it IoT also. But we focus only on WSN. So we can have monitoring friendly forces, equipment and automation, battlefield, nuclear, biological and chemical attack detection, forest fire detection, flood detection, air and water pollution detection, telemonitoring of human physiological data, tracking and monitoring doctors and patients inside a hospital, international border monitoring, pipelines monitoring, environmental control in office and buildings, home and office automation, smart environment. We can reduce wiring effects, measurements in chambers and rotating parts, remote technical inspections, interactive museums, detecting and monitoring car thefts, vehicle tracking and detection. A special area known as VANET has been developed in mobile computing, which is very recent area, and several researchers are working on it. So this is a special part of mobile computing. So as you see, and there are many more applications. I have listed only a few. As you can see that we can apply wireless sensor network in any area. But there are certain design challenges. What are those design challenges? First of all, sensor nodes may be of different type. The manufacturer may be different, their working style may be different, their operating voltage may be different, their communication. So we have to deal with heterogeneity. We need to create a network which can easily communicate with each other, which can transfer information, in an useful manner. So we need to deal with this heterogeneity. The processing is distributed because there are thousands of nodes and each node is contributing something, each node is gathering information. So that's the thing, that processing is distributed. Low bandwidth communication, because we do not have a broadband or we do not have an optical fiber. So we use generally Zigbee or other protocols. So bandwidth is low, but generally we do not have any heavy videos or audios transferring between sensor nodes. There are certain small values. So that does not create any problem, but we have to deal with it and we have to ensure that this does not create a bottleneck. Coordination is required because without coordination, we cannot achieve a good result, good data, and we cannot achieve good insights, meaningful insights. As I told you, all these sensor nodes are battery backup, and replacing this battery is not an easy task, and it is time consuming as well as manpower intensive, and cost is also high. So what we want these devices to use low power for transmission as well as for receiving, so that their lifetime can be increased. Okay, so this is major challenge. We want to perform real-time computation. We want to reach the conclusion at a very fast rate. Suppose there is a fire in a forest. If we are not able to detect this fire within initial few minutes, that fire may spread to a very large area. So real-time computation and real-time actions are necessary in case of wireless sensor networks, especially in case of monitoring. So as I told you, that energy saving is important to increase the lifetime. But bandwidth as well as power can be saved if we use effective routing strategy. If we are able to use less number of messages, or we are able to save number of hops, number of middle nodes, we will be able to save significant amount of bandwidth and significant amount of power. And that will help us in increasing the lifetime of the entire network and will save our cost. So we can classify routing protocols in wireless sensor networks on various bases. First one is based upon network structure. Second is their communication model. Third is topology. Fourth is reliable routing. Since most of the participants are not from computer science background, so I'm not going into detail of all these sub-classifications, but just I want to tell you the importance of routing protocol, how the messages are transferred between various sensor nodes. So there are hundreds of protocols proposed by the researchers in order to have some good parameters, good performance, and in order to save lifetime, in order to increase the lifetime of the network, in order to transfer the data in reliable manner. So this is the goal. I'm not going into detail of these protocols because otherwise it will be too technical. But I would just like to tell you some performance parameters, how we deploy nodes. That is very important. Because if we deploy all, suppose we 10 kilometer across 10 kilometer area, forest area, we need to monitor, and we decided to say deploy 10,000 nodes. And if we deploy all these 10,000 nodes in a 1 kilometer into 1 kilometer area, and rest of the area is not is deprived of any sensor node, in that case we will not be able to get a clear picture. So node deployment is important. Fault tolerance is another aspect. Suppose sometimes what we do instead of placing one node, we place two nodes nearby. If this node fails, this node may continue its work and we will be able to get the data from this node. Third thing is scalability. We want our nodes to, we want our network to be developed in such a manner so that we can increase the number of nodes from 10K to 20K and if required, or even 40K if required. If we want to increase the 10 kilometer by 10 kilometer area to say 20 kilometer into 20 kilometer area, my network should work perfectly. Mobility, although generally wireless sensor network nodes are not mobile, just in MANET, mobile ad hoc network is another classification of mobile network. In this, the nodes are highly mobile, but in wireless sensor networks, generally the nodes are not mobile. But sometimes, especially if you are using a river or sea, the nodes may move from one place to another place. We want to check whether our routing protocol supports this mobility or not, whether my protocol is energy efficient or not. That is the major deciding factor, which protocol I need to use. Topology, you know, how the networks, how the different sensor network nodes are connected with each other. These are the things. What is the power consumption? That is related to the energy efficiency. So these are the performance parameters. Now we come to the topic, that is environmental monitoring. We need to monitor forests, mountains, earth crust, vegetation, rivers, lakes and ponds, sea, air, desert, marshland, and all the geographical terrains and whatever we want to monitor. In these, we want to either do it in a to analyze the data, get the data, or we may be interested in a particular event, right? For example, अगर मैं forest की बात करूं, in forest monitoring, we may be interested in fire. In sea monitoring, we may be interested in whether there is a spill of oil or not, because this is highly dangerous for the species living in the sea. I do not have enough time to discuss all these things, but I have included some case studies. And the first one is air pollution monitoring. This is very close to my heart because I told you that I worked in Envirotech Instruments for 2 years between 1998 to 2000. And here my work was on a data logger. That was basically a microprocessor based system. Microprocessor based system in which we have a data logger here, and there were certain sensors at the rooftop of any organization. The sensors included wind speed, wind direction, temperature, humidity, and solar radiation. These were the sensors. A sensor assembly was at the rooftop, and that sensor assembly was connected with the microprocessor based system placed here. And here we are gathering data on a 5 minutes time frame. And then we can analyze this data we can transfer this data from this microprocessor based system to a computer, and from there we can process the data. We can transfer the what kind of temperature change is there, what kind of wind direction, wind speed, because that is very important. Because you must have heard that today the wind speed is high, so the pollution in Delhi will not be very high. PM 2.5 will be less because the wind speed is high. Right. So this was my experience with the air pollution monitoring. Nowadays, online monitoring is also possible. In online monitoring, we can place our sensor assembly at a different place, and then it can be connected via internet to a central processor placed in a room or a processing room where the data can be processed. So this was the wind monitor which I am telling, because I have worked on chip level. I understood. I learned about chip level repairing and signals first time, monitoring signals using CRO first time, and Shri Rakesh Agrawalji was my guru who taught me how to study the PCB, what kind of signal will be required at what place, and which IC may be wrong in order to get it corrected. I went to several sites such as ONGC and Haldia Refinery and ISM Dhanbad for repairing this wind monitor. Now we can have CO analyzer or CO2 analyzer. So we have for that purpose, because CO and CO2 are harmful gases, and we want to monitor these. So we, in Envirotech, also developed a CO analyzer which analyzes the CO in the atmosphere, and with the help of an operational amplifier, convert and analog to digital converter, convert it and display the levels and send it to another node. And in that way, from Zigbee to that can be transferred to the personal computer, where this data can be stored and this data can be processed for further useful insights. This is a photo of a CO sensor or CO2 sensor, which can be easily embedded in an assembly, and with the help of that, we can measure these harmful gases. Monitoring glaciers. When I worked in Sharda University also, and there was my colleague Professor Rajesh, and he got an assignment, a project for monitoring Himalayan glaciers, and he used to go for 1 month or 2 months and set up a base station there and collect data, because most of the fresh water, we have only very few fresh water available on our earth, and most of these fresh water is stored in the glaciers, and these glaciers are melting at a very fast rate. What is the cause, and how we can reduce this rate? That is a challenging task, and for that purpose we can use wireless sensor networks, and the data can be collected at a base station, which is at a place where the scientists can reside for months, and occasionally they can go to the actual site, but the data they can get with the help of the wireless sensor network to a base station, and they can process this data. So I wrote a poem also about the glacier when my Tauji, Dr. G.T. Agrawal, was on fast unto death, and he was very worried about these glaciers and about the future of Ma Ganga. So I write this poem. ये जो यू गंगोत्री ग्लेशियर का सिमटना देख रहे हो तुम सब, ये और कुछ भी नहीं है, बस गंगा का वापस है स्वर्गारोहण। बांधों से होकर ये परेशान, सुरंगों में होकर के बेहद हैरान, झीलों में बंद देख अपने प्राण, अर्जी लगाई है वापस जाने की, इच्छा थी प्रभु से मिल पाने की, क्योंकि भक्त ज्यादातर है फर्जी, अब बन गई है प्रभु की मर्जी, और प्रार्थना कर ली स्वीकार, नकली भक्त तेज कर रहे धार, तैयार हैं उनके सब हथियार, स्वर्ग की यात्रा को माँ है तैयार। 3 मीटर प्रति साल की है गति, मारी गई थी हम सबकी मति, नहीं सुनी सानंद जी की बात, करते रहे सदा घात पर घात. जैसा कि भारतीय सभ्यता, as you know that in Indian culture, it is it is a belief that Raja Bhagirath brought Ma Ganga on earth with his tapasya, and but now the future is not very bright. So I wrote this poem. Now I move to the forest. The forest fire incidents are increasing on a day-to-day basis, and these are frequencies high and intensity is also high. And duration is also high. We are losing our precious resources due to this forest fire. And the main reason is that we are not able to detect fire well in time, because if we do not detect this fire within first 1 hour, it is spread at such a fast rate. It is very difficult to extinguish this fire now, and we have to put so many resources. If we are able to detect this fire, somehow we get a signal and we take action proactively, we can reduce the intensity and duration of this fire. There are 3 types of fire: Davanal, Badvanal, or Jatranal. This is about the forest fire, this is about the sea fire, and this is about the stomach fire. So these 3 type of fires have been popular. So because of this forest fire, property and life loss every day due to forest fire. And besides this, there is a lot of environmental degradation also, because harmful gases are emitted when there is a fire. Or a tree takes 30 years to fully grown up, and a fire may cause thousands of trees to be burnt down, and again it will take 30 years. Our 30-year efforts are wasted. So we need to detect fires early, drop thousands of sensors. We can drop thousands of sensors over fire-prone areas, and we can have either a smoke sensor, temperature sensor, light and humidity sensor. With the help of these sensors, we can detect fire at an early stage. And with the help of that, there will be a communication, and at the base station, we will get a fire alarm, and our rangers can take action accordingly. We can deploy endangered species. We can deploy sensors to detect endangered species also. We can embed either inside sensors inside the endangered species animals, because for tigers, etc. This has been done. Or we can put motion sensors or certain kind of sensors at different places. If it is not possible to embed sensors inside the body of the endangered species, we can place the sensors, and especially the motion sensor and or weight pressure sensor. So with the help of that, we can find some meaningful data for this. These are the sensors used for the detection of fire. We can use it in our buildings also. Marine and environmental monitoring is another important aspect, in which the WSN can play an important role. Oil spill is one way, and we may be interested in the environmental parameters of the, say, temperature. What is the temperature? What is the speed of waves and turbidity in the sea? And for river also, coral reef monitoring. Coral reef monitoring can also be required, and fish farm monitoring can also be done with the help of sensor network. Water, if we talk about river or sea or lake or pond, we may be interested in water quality monitoring, especially dissolved oxygen and biological oxygen demand, because this decides whether a living organism can be easily live in a water body or not. Another important aspect where WSN can be used, these are pipelines. Nowadays, water, gas, oil, and even you may say that AC duct lines or electrical wires, all these are, with the help of a pipeline, we use this. And these pipelines may span around several states and several countries and even several continents. And from these may be thousands of kilometers long. Because this is an efficient way. Once we set up a pipeline, the transportation cost is significantly reduced. We need not to, and the time is also reduced. We can get continuous supply at a very cost-effective transportation rate. But the problem with this pipeline approach is that there are several threats. We can have a terrorist attack, we can have a flood, we can have earthquake, we can have accidental damage, damage due to wear and tear and blocking. Suppose a gas pipeline is here, and due to some accidental damage, there is a hole, so the gas will leak. So we can detect these things with the help of WSN wireless sensor networks. We can develop sensor nodes. We can deploy sensor nodes either on the pipeline or near the pipeline to detect these events, which these events can be detected. And what we can do, we can quickly switch off the supply from the source, which will reduce our losses and which will reduce the environmental damage also. So we can solve these problems with the help of the WSN. So we need to put a monitoring station at, suppose this is one end of the pipeline, this is another end of the pipeline, and this is the pipeline. So this is my station 1, this is my station 2, and here I can put sensor nodes to sense any untoward incidents, and these sensor nodes will communicate and will report the incidents to both the stations, and these stations can take appropriate measure. Alternatively, we can use drones, because sometimes this may take some time. So, and the energy efficiency is another problem. So, a drone can fly from here to here and here to here, and it can collect data in the way, and this data can be transferred to the both side of stations. That's all from my side. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Yeah. Any questions? If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. We'll unmute you from here. Dr. Sarup, I can see so many compliments for you, and people are asking for the slides. So if you can share with us, I will share with all my delegates.
Yeah, ma'am, I will share with you on your
And
WhatsApp
let me tell you, right, during your lecture, we had around 240 participants from 19 countries with us.
I am thankful to all the participants and the organizers to provide me this opportunity.
Yeah. Any questions? I'm seeing. I would like all the participants to know the patron and the principal of ISTTP-2 is with us. Professor Dr. Hukam Singh Ji is with us, and Dr. Sarup, he has been listening to your lecture for quite long. Dr. Singh, आपका बहुत-बहुत स्वागत है, अभिनंदन है.
Ma'am, can I get the recording of this video?
Yes, sir. You can definitely get, and we are going to upload the whole recordings of this 7 days ISTTP on our channel, which is Environmental Toxicology, and it will be available there as well.
Right. Thank you.
Hello.
So,
Uh,
Dr. Tagi has a question.
I just want to appreciate his efforts, that he's really doing a wonderful job to protect the environment, and it is a bit intricate for us to understand all that PPT at a one go. So whenever we'll get an opportunity to see it and understand it, then we'll thank him for that. He's
Thank you,
doing
ma'am. You
a
are-
great job, a great research. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah. Any more questions? Dr. Reba has raised a hand. Unmute Dr. Reba. Have you unmuted? I don't think so. I think there's no one else. So, Dr. Sarup, now it's time to formally thank you. Um, it seems that everyone is spellbound with your presentation, your years of research, your depth of understanding of user interfaces, and your ability to present the subject in such an interesting way produced one of the most memorable presentation of ISTTP-2. If you personally ask me, the subject intrigues me because I'm from life sciences, but I do have a drift toward computer science as well. And I plan to learn more from you. Please consider us in adding us in your group to your future speeches as well.
Sure.
You are always welcome to be with us in our upcoming events as well. You spoke on WSN, that is Wireless Sensor Network, and its applications. You spoke about air pollution monitoring, and I think it is the most important thing right now. You are also the resident of Delhi. I'm also the resident of
Yes.
Delhi, and you know what is cost to live in Delhi? 10
Yeah.
cigarettes a day.
Right.
So monitoring is very, very important when it comes to the remedial measures. Unless there is a proper monitoring is not there, we cannot have a proper remedial system.
Yes.
So you are doing a great job, Dr. Sarup, trust me.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
It's very interesting topic. Your slides are beautiful, and you were adding certain lines to it. I was very deeply hearing that and seeing that, and that was an added advantage when you were adding some clues to it. And they're very self-explanatory. And let me tell you, we have got a series of 10 trainings, Dr. Sarup, and this is the second one.
Okay, ma'am.
So I really hope that you are going to join us in our future events as well. And thank you so much. It was proud to have you with us.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for your kind words.
Now I will transfer the stage to Dr. Sudha Suphal Shringi.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Dr. Sudha Sakwal Shringi, Associate Professor, Raj Rishi College, Alwar, Rajasthan, India. Our next keynote speaker is Dr. Mamta Sharma. Let me give you all a brief introduction of Dr. Mamta. Dr. Mamta Sharma is Associate Professor Zoology at Raj Rishi Govt Autonomous College, Alwar. Dr. Sharma has done her doctorate in environmental toxicology from Indian Council of Medical Research and postdoctorate in biotechnology from Indian Council of Agricultural Research. She holds master's degree in zoology with specialization in environmental toxicology and another master's in business administration with specialization in HR and personnel. She is PG diploma in environmental studies and also qualified NET. Dr. Sharma has many years of extensive experience in teaching, research training, academic and general administration, including being the district level master trainer for the election training in Alwar district. Dr. Sharma is a profound researcher with in-depth research experience and knowledge in the field of environment, toxicology, microbiology, biochemistry, and biotechnology. Dr. Sharma has served in Indian Armed Forces and Rajasthan Education Services and worked with many leading universities of India. She has done many research projects and has 45 research papers at her credit, published in national and international journals. She was bestowed with the Director General's Plaque of Honor for standing first in All India in pre-commissioned course at Officers Training Academy. She was honored by District Award from Government of Rajasthan for her excellent work in the state services. She has 2 patents at her credit with the Government of India. She has received many awards for her noteworthy contribution in the field of research, academics, and environment conservation. She has also authored 8 international books. She has organized many international training programs, conferences, seminars as organizing secretary. Congratulations, Dr. Mamta. Your CV is wonderful and outstanding. So now I invite Dr. Mamta Sharma to give her presentation. Welcome, Mamta. The stage is all yours.
मेरी PPT चलाओ. The mic is on. Close, restart. Two 60. First. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Mamta Sharma, Associate Professor Zoology, Raj Rishi Govt Autonomous College, Alwar, Rajasthan, India. You can reach me out at mamta810@gmail.com. So you have been hearing me for long as organizing secretary, but today I'm here to present my research. Basically, I'm a pesticide toxicologist, and let me take you to the world of pesticides. The title of my presentation is Organochlorine Pesticides in Human Placenta, a Threat to Primates. Next. Paracelsus, he is the father of toxicology. He rightly said that all substances are poison. There is none which is not a poison. The right dose differentiates a poison and a remedy. So my dear friends, you can just kill a person by assault. Decide on the right dose. So welcome to the world of toxicology. Next. In the present world, every food element and a particle is contaminated with chemicals. So is anything is really safe? Whenever we take a cold drink, whenever we take a drop of water, whenever we breathe, whenever we sleep, even our bed linens, and whenever we eat, we are eating toxicants within. This is the world of pesticides. Welcome to the toxicology. Next. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about a particular toxicants, my favorite toxicants, that is organochlorine pesticides. The organic substances that are persistent bioaccumulative possesses toxic characteristics likely to cause adverse human health and normative effects are known as PBTs, which is persistent bioaccumulative toxic substances. The toxic substances which get accumulated in our own bodies. Subclass of PBTs, so-called as POPs, which are persistent organic pollutants, is a group of compounds which are prone to long-range atmospheric transport depositions. The global extent of POP pollution began apparent with their detection in areas such as the Arctic, where they have never been used or produced at level posing risk to wildlife and humans. So, my dear friends, whenever we get the chance to go to Antarctica, and we drink water there, it will have DDT there as well. Whenever you drink in Delhi or you drink in Antarctica. But DDTs have never been used in Antarctica. So see the range of POPs, where they are found. This is the toxicology. So organochlorine pesticides, which I'm going to talk as OCPs, fall in the category of POPs, and they are extremely and extensively persistent compounds. They have lifetime of thousands of years, hundreds of years. So imagine if we drop one drop of OCPs on the earth, it will take hundreds of years to get out of our world. Pesticides, particularly persistent types, get translocated into air, water, and soil systems from the point of initial applications, thus endangering the normal functioning of non-target organisms, including man. So, my dear friends, anything if we design to kill a life, is very much non-targeted. That means if we want to kill one fly, it is going to kill many other life forms as well, including us. So whenever you design a pesticide, be ready to give away few years of your life. Next. What make these compounds so toxic, so harmful, that now they're ready to kill human beings as well? There's something which is called as bioaccumulation. What is bioaccumulation? Any substance which is able to dissolve in lipophilic compounds, that is lipid soluble, and which has got very long half-life, which are known as persistent. They are going to get accumulated in all the life forms in different trophic levels. So if I talk of here, suppose if I spray 0.04 ppm, that is parts per million DDT in a sea, or in a pond, or in any aquatic body. So it is 0.04 ppm in zooplankton, which becomes 5 ppm in a fish. And when that fish is eaten by the bigger fish, it becomes 2 ppm. And when it is eaten by an eagle, it becomes 25 ppm. And imagine if this bigger fish is further eaten and further eaten and further eaten, and human eats it. It is 10 million times. So this is the toxicology. Next. Biomagnification. Biomagnification is something which is actually killing us and killing our wildlife. Bioaccumulation is the gradual accumulation of substances such as pesticides and other chemicals in an organism. Bioaccumulation occurs when an organism absorbs a substance at a rate faster than at which the substance is eliminated by catabolism or excretion. So suppose if we are eating 5 ppm and we are not able to excrete that 5 ppm, and every time we are eating 5 ppm, so at the end of the year we are having at least 40, 50, 60, 70 ppm in our bodies. And when pesticides are known as potent carcinogens, mutagens, teratogens, immunosuppressors, hormone depressors. So the answer is very clear that why we are having so many cancer patients. Before 20 years, that cancer was that popular disease. Now cancer has become just like nausea. Every second person is having one kind or other kind of the cancer. This is toxicology. Next. What is the correlation between biomagnification and bioaccumulation? This is a very beautiful chart. I just brought it here. So that it is by the National Geographic. So I want to thank National Geographic for this beautiful chart, which clearly shows that how bioaccumulation and biomagnification is happening and it is killing us. Biomagnification can very clearly be said when there is a gradual increase of a toxicant from one trophic level to the other trophic level. It is going to kill the highest trophic level. And who are at the highest trophic level, my dear friends? It's we the humans. So we are killing ourselves very slowly with biomagnification and bioconcentration. Next. I would like to start my research by quoting a very beautiful work which is done at IPRC Lucknow in 1981, in which Dr. Saxena and Dr. Siddiqui, they have done work on humans, and they have collected the placental tissue from the women who are giving birth to the babies in the hospital. And they have designed the research in such a way, they have compared the placental tissue concentration of DDT and HCH and Aldrin in spontaneous abortions, women having spontaneous abortions, women having preterm abortions, and women having full-term normal delivery. And to the horrendous research results said that women having spontaneous abortions have got the maximum concentration of pesticides. After that, women having preterm, and after that, women having full term. That means pesticides play a very important role in abortions and preterm labor. So what are we doing to humans? What are we doing to women? One of the conclusions of the work was the organochlorine insecticide acts as an antagonist to pregnancy. That means If a woman is exposed to organochlorine pesticides, she will never be able to conceive or give to the baby. So, if we continue, I don't think so we will have children in our world. Next, welcome to the pesticides. So, my research was designed in a city called Jaipur, which is the capital of Rajasthan, in which I had worked with two hospitals, Janana Hospital and Mahila Chikitsalaya, which are attached to the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, SMS Medical College, Jaipur. And I've also taken two private hospitals, which is Sanjeevani Hospital and Meera Hospital, Bani Park, Jaipur. In general, I have taken 101 women, and my cases had no history of any occupational or accidental exposure to pesticides. However, they were asked to fill up a questionnaire giving information relevant to the pesticide residue accumulation, such as age, dietary habits, area of residence, parity, social status, accidental or occupational exposure to pesticides, etc., according to WHO methodology. The samples were collected at the time of delivery. The sample was placental tissue. It was collected at the time of delivery into the acetone washed aluminum foil and stored at minus 10 degrees Celsius till it was analyzed, generally within the 48 hours. The extraction of pesticides. Pesticides were extracted and separated from the samples by liquid partition and column chromatography so that they can be analyzed by gas liquid chromatography and thin layer chromatography procedures. All reagents and chemicals used were of analytical grade. They were checked for any pesticide contamination. Specimen of placenta was extracted and cleaned by fluorescent column as per the methodology given by Bush and co-workers with little modifications according to prevailing laboratory conditions. One more thing I want to tell all the viewers that we have done recovery experiments as well to ensure that whatever methodology we are using and whatever the changes we are doing as per the prevailing laboratory conditions, they will have no effect on the extraction of pesticides. So we were three times sure that whatever we are doing right, and whatever the results we are getting, they are 100% correct. Next. Now the quantitative estimation. Quantitative estimation of pesticide residues in all the extracts was done by HP5890 series 2 gas liquid chromatograph equipped with nickel 63 electron capture detector ECD coupled with HP3396A integrator. Gas coil system, that is 1.3 m into 4 mm into L into ID, was packed with a solid support of chromosome 100 by 122 mesh size along with the liquid phase, which is 1.5 OV minus 14 plus minus 1.95% OV to 110. Actually, this column was specifically designed by Hewlett-Packard for the extraction of organochlorine pesticides. So this was given us, this specification was given to us by Hewlett-Packard. Purified nitrogen, this is IOLR1. Gas was used as a carrier gas and a known volume of sample was injected in the column with the help of a 10 microliter Hamilton syringe. Different peaks of the samples were identified by comparing their retention time with those of standards. Quantitation of the samples were done by the data obtained from the integrator and were based on the peak areas. Standards were obtained from EPA, that is Environmental Protection Agency, USA. As I told you before that we have done recovery, analysis and confirmation as well. Recovery analysis was done by the fortification experiments and percentage recovery was 95 to 98%. TLC, thin layer chromatography, was used for confirming the identity of OCPs already detected by GC. The pesticides for which the GC was standardized were estimated were aldrin, isomer of HCl, which is alpha beta gamma, metabolites of heptachlor and heptachloroperoxide, and DDT, which is DDE, DDD, and DDT. DDE and DDD are the metabolized product of dichloro-diphenyl trichloroethane. Statistical analysis. The calculations are based on biological statistics and the values are expressed as mean plus minus standard error. The difference in the pesticide residue levels between different groups was analyzed with the help of student t-test. Significance between the residue levels of different groups was judged as 5 and 1% levels. Next. These are the observations which have been received after the 101 samples were extracted, cleaned, and analyzed. And these samples were analyzed by GLC, and I can show you the results of alpha, beta, gamma, heptachlor, aldrin, heptachloric oxide, DDE, DDD, DDT, and total SCH, total heptachlor, and total DDT. I can show you the mean plus minus error. But what I want to bring your concentration to is number of positive samples. My dear friends, see it is n is equal to 95, then 77, then 64, then 59, then 81, then 56, 87, 26. And in the case of total HCH, it is 99% samples were positive. And in the case of total heptachlor, it is 82. And the more horrifying for DDT, it is 97. So you can see what we are doing to ourselves. And please look at the concentrations. 82.1, 37.4, 91.7, 109.3 heptachlor. Aldrin is 122.2. Then heptachloric oxide is 769.8. Then DD 98, 62, 55, and 170. 1058 heptachlor. So this is what monitoring study says, that we should stop pesticide right away. Next. Why it's coming upstairs with that thing? Okay. We also tried to stratify the data on the basis of the case histories. So what we did, we tried to divide placental samples of the women and their extractions on the basis of their food habits, on the basis of their age, and on the basis of their pesticide use. So this categorization was done, as I told you before, that we have asked all the cases to fill the case histories. So we have taken this data from the case histories and we have divided them into 3 categories. So we found that the people who are consuming non-vegetarian foods, the women who were consuming non-vegetarian foods had more pesticides in their body when compared to people who are eating vegetarian. And what is the explanation in relation to this is that the animal body, that's what I told you by accumulation. Animal body has got more pesticides than the plant body. So I would recommend for a pregnant woman not to eat non-vegetarian dishes. Then we go to the age. We have 2 categories, 7 to 24 and other from 25 to 34. We found that women who are towards the older age group, they had less pesticide in compared to the younger women. The cases is that when woman has gone to number of parturitions, she has shed off the pesticide in the form of feeding, in the form of placenta, in the form of cord blood and all. Then we went to the third side, that is the pesticide use. The women who has used any kind of pesticide, they were having more pesticide than the women who has not used pesticide at all. So we also recommend that pregnant women should avoid the use of pesticides. Next. After that, we divided 2 more categories. We divided our subjects into 2 more categories. One was the weight category and other was the parity. We had women from 45 to 55 kgs and 56 to 75 kgs. So we found that women who were a bit overweight had more pesticides than women who are having less weight. Then again here the fat comes into the picture. Fat has the ability to store pesticides. So women who are at the higher weight side had more fat, so had more concentration of organochlorine pesticides. When we come to parity, we found primiparas. We have 30 cases of primiparas, means women having their first child, and then the multiparas. We had 71 cases, like women having second, third, fourth, fifth baby, whatever it is. So we found that primiparous women had more pesticides when compared to multiparous cases. Here we can correlate with the age factor also, and we can say that at every parity, women loses pesticide in the form of. Hmm? I will kill her. It's clear. Okay, so so the women who were having multiparity, like they were giving birth to their second, third, or fourth child, they have less pesticide when compared to primiparous pesticide. We can create multiparous with the age also, and primiparous with the age as well. As I told you, the women with the higher age group has lesser pesticides. The multiparous women are usually at the higher age group. Secondly, with every parity, women tend to lose pesticides uh, uh, pesticide with the feeding and with the parity. Next, I also tried to find out the percentage metabolism of DDT estimated as DDD, DDE. As I told you that DDD, that is dichlorodiaphenyl dichloroethane, and DDD is dichlorodiaphenyl trichloroethane. The DDD, DD are the metabolic products of DDT. So in case of maternal blood, when I see in the maternal blood or the cord blood and the placenta. Here I have taken, because my study had like one woman, whenever one case comes to me, I will take the maternal blood, I will take the cord blood, I will take the placenta, and I will take the milk. That complete my one case. So here I have tried to compare, and I can show you that what is the percentage metabolism of DDT. In the case of, since I'm talking about placenta, I'm not talking about the maternal blood and the cord blood, I'm only talking about the placenta. So it is in the case of DDE, it is 36.6 in the case of in a vegetarian case, and it is non-vegetarian case. Let me tell you, it is 145. In the younger woman, it is 129, and it is nearly less than three quarter in the case of women which is a higher age. And when we talk of pesticide used and not used, we can see the same thing here. And when we talk of age group, it is 136 and 49.2. And when we talk of primiparous and multiparity, it is 199 and 49.5. That is the case of DDE. And if we come to DDD, it is 65.9 and 35.0. And it is 39.2 and 74.9. It is 24.1 and 80.5. It is 54.6 and 74.2. And it's primary and multi, it is 67 and 61. Next. These are the results which I have compiled just to share with you that what actually I found when I did my research. So the concentration of OCPs in the placental tissue of women included in the table 1, which I have shared with you, in the present finding concentration of all women. Total SCH, total heptachlor, and total DDT is 122.2, 170.6, 1058.6, and 99.6 parts per billion respectively. An attempt has been made to find out the effect of dietary habit, age, parity, weight, habits of pesticide use, and week of gestation period on the accumulation and excretion via placental tissue that I have already discussed with you in my table 2. Significantly high concentration of OCP were found in the placental tissue of women with non-vegetarian dietary habits. We discussed that. A general trend of high residue accumulation in the placenta of women of higher age group was observed when compared with the women of lower age group. But differences are statistically non-significant between the two groups. Higher accumulation of pesticide was found in the placental tissue of women who used pesticide in comparison of women who had not used pesticides at all. So my dear friends, stop using pesticides at home. A general trend of high residue accumulation was observed in the placental tissue of women with high weight category in comparison of women with low weight category. In the present findings, parity also influenced the accumulation of OCPs in the placental tissue. On comparing the residue deposits of primiparous and multiparous females, no statistically significant difference was observed. Back. No statistical significance was observed. between the above two groups, but a general trend of high residue levels was observed in the placenta of multiparous females. Computation has also been done on the quantitative removal of detective pesticides to placenta at the time of delivery to have a better understanding on the exposure of pesticides to placenta, impact of dietary habits, age, habits of pesticide use, parity and weight loss has also been studied. I told you where DDE and DDD values were shown. The efforts were also made to find out whether placenta could serve as a site of biodegradation of detective pesticides by computing the percent concentration of their metabolites in blood and placental tissue. However, no significant conclusion could be drawn. Some in vitro studies are needed in this regard that we have discussed in the table 4. Next. Dear viewers, we can discuss a bit what we have talked. The frequency of the distribution of OCPs detected in the placenta of 101 women are incorporated in the table 2. We have already discussed this. I have told you the values and I have told you that Indians are reported to have highest body burden of pesticide by Dale et al. In 1964, and we are continuing standing at the highest in the pesticide concentration. Next. So let's come to the conclusion, whatever we have discussed. As I have asked you before also, how do we go and buy vegetables? This I have asked you, the same question I have asked you in my previous presentation also, and I always start my presentation with the same thing. Like whenever I go to buy the vegetables, I pick up the most beautiful green ladyfinger. I pick up the most whitest cauliflower. I buy the shiniest apple which is available, or I will find the long cylindrical bottle gourd for myself. But I'm asking to the people who have seen the world 20, 30 years back, were these vegetables or these fruits were so beautiful? Was the size of cauliflower was this big? No. Welcome to the world of cosmetic pesticides. हाँ, एक बात हम कहते हैं जो दिखता है वही बिकता है, तो हमने उसके लिए अपने वेजिटेबल्स को भी नहीं छोड़ा, हमने अपने फ्रूट्स को भी नहीं छोड़ा. उन्हें सुंदर बनाने के लिए हम यूज करते हैं कॉस्मेटिक पेस्टिसाइड्स. So my dear viewers, whenever there is a blooming and whenever there is a fruiting on the plant, there is a class of pesticide which is known as cosmetic pesticides are being sprayed. And when they are being sprayed, they make the size of the apples bigger, they give them shine, they make bottle gourd bigger, they make the cauliflower white as possible. So look at this. And these pesticides, they become the integral part of that particular vegetable. And being the lipophilic compounds and they are persistent compounds, these things cannot be removed by cooking, by washing, by anything. They will go with our food. So it is the highest time for us to stop the use of pesticides and save the mother nature. So let me start with my conclusion. It is quite clear from the foregoing discussion that all over the world, Indian mothers have got the highest body burden of organochlorine pesticides. This is because in the third world countries such as India, because of the cost-benefit ratio, organochlorine pesticides is the major pesticide used in agriculture and public health sector. This is in accordance to the finding of Dale and his co-workers in 1965 that India has got the highest body burden of organochlorine pesticides. Here I would like to talk one more thing. When the Indian scenario has come into picture, I would like to talk one more thing. One more thing is that if I go to any village, I see no safety procedures are used by our farmers. They don't even know what is the dose. They will just put pesticide like this and then they throw in the field. So unknowingly, they are contributing in the environmental pollution. So the most important thing is we have to make people educated. We have to make people aware about how to use pesticides. They should know that whatever they are using, it's not a common compound. It is a poison. It is a toxicant. And if it falls to anywhere on the earth or it is eaten by someone or this quantity increases, it is going to kill people. So the most important thing is in India, we have to make the farmers educated and aware about the use, about the safety procedures, because life of the farmer is also important. So the most important contribution in the pesticide pollution is unawareness and no education. The present study directly reflects the national scene of the magnitude of pesticide pollution, which signifies the distribution and accumulation of non-biodegradable lipophilic pesticides in pregnant women on one side and subsequently the vulnerability of successive generation from its very inception in the womb of the mother on the other side. So the so-called placental barrier, which separates the maternal compartment from the fetal compartment, must be regarded as the epithelial membrane of lipid character, a lipid sieve through which lipophilic non-polar substances are able to penetrate according to the concentration gradient and degree of lipophilicity. So before it, there was a concept that placenta act as a barrier and all the toxic compounds which mother is exposed are not reaching to the baby and placenta act as a barrier. This concept is shattered. This is wrong. This was a very wrong concept on which we were living. Placenta is the epithelial sieve, and all the compounds which are lipid soluble, they are able to cross the placenta and go to the developing baby. So if mother is exposed to DDT, we should ensure that child is also exposed to DDT. So this concept is shattered here, and placenta is not a barrier. Placenta is the epithelial sieve, and all the lipophilic compounds, non-porous substances, they are able to penetrate the placenta and go to the developing baby. This gives the answer to many congenital diseases with which a child is born, like hydrocephaly. A physiological state like pregnancy no doubt helps mother in fighting against the increasing burden of environmental pollutants like persistent organoglowing pesticides. During the state, as evident from the present investigation, that mothers appreciably reduce their body burden of pesticide at the expense of intoxication of their own developing baby in the womb through placenta transfer throughout the gestation period. This is so horrifying. And I would like the attention of every scientist, every viewer, every scholar attached to this ISTTP-2 that we should look into this very seriously. A small fraction of total burden of the body gets reduced when placenta is disposed of after the childbirth. Starvation, stress caused by an increase in the fetal concentration of DDT and its metabolites call for a strict regulation in time to take a meal and a balance between calorific intake and energy requirement of the mother during pregnancy to avoid mobilization of fat deposits resulting in the mobilization of stored residues. That means a woman should never get into the stress. She should take proper meals, because if this doesn't happen, the child tend to take all the energy and all the nutrients from the mother, and at that time the dissolution of fat happens and fat stores the pesticide, and because of that the concentration in the fetal circulation increases at the time of stress, at the time of starvation. So we have to take a very important call that while woman is pregnant, her food should be proper, she should not be given any stress, so she is saved from the toxicity. She can save her child from the toxicity of pesticides. It can be concluded that magnitude of pesticide pollution is quite high, enough to contaminate the food and environment and toxicant reach the human body through various sources, mainly by absorption from the gastrointestinal tract, through contaminated food chain, and from there they are further circulated in the blood, stored in placental tissue of the women. Pesticide body burden is also reduced in mothers during the parturition, as pesticide stored in placenta shadow during the delivery. Mothers also shadow body burden of pesticide during lactation. That means how the women body gets exposed to pesticides. There are so many routes. Our air has got a pesticide, she gets from there. Our water has got the pesticide, she gets it from the there. Every food particle has got pesticide, so it is the GIT, gastrointestinal tract, which absorbs all kind of pesticide, and through the nasal tract, that is the pesticides are floating in the air, and they finally get stored, and from there they are transferred from mother to the baby through the placenta. And that is how the predate get exposed. But when the child is born, that is the neonate. When neonate is born, it is again exposed to pesticide because the human milk contains a good amount of fat, and mothers tend to lose the body burden of pesticides through the lactation as well. So again, the child is exposed to pesticides. So this is the world of toxicology. Next. Pesticides are also secreted along the milk, resulting in sufficient neonatal intake. Since the pesticide reported to be potent carcinogens, mutagenic, teratogenic, immunosuppressive, induce endocrine dysfunction, high estrogenic activity, disturb reproductive processes, both depressants, induce several psychogenic and neurogenic abnormalities in adult stages, are also reported to be associated with abortions, premature deliveries, stillbirths. Low birth weights and consequences are obvious on the mother and developing baby. See the number of side effects. I won't say the side effects. Number of harmful effects of the pesticides, carcinogen, mutagen, teratogen, and they're immunosuppressive. So what are we doing to our mother nature? What are we doing to ourselves? In the developing countries such as India, cost benefit ratio plays a very, very important role in the use of pesticides. India says that we have to stop the use of DDT in agriculture. But DDT is readily available on the name of public health. It is the use to stop the malaria. So the farmer who is not educated, he'll say, oh, dawai dena. People, they bring DDT because they have been doing it from years. They don't even know that DDT has banned or DDT has got so many side effects. Raquel Carson, when he spoke about the bald eagles, the USA woke up, America woke up. But I don't know when India is going to wake up. It calls for a suggestion like special care in the nutrition and in the environment of the mother throughout the life, and especially during the pregnancy and lactation. It would be advisable for a woman to avoid the consumption of fatty foodstuffs and heavily polluted working environment. It is also advisable for a woman to avoid the use of insecticides for the household purposes. It also reflects that there is an urgent need to develop less or non-persistent, more or total biodegradable and other means by which we can reduce the environmental pollution by the pesticide, which is not only posing risk to human health, but it is a big, big peril for our future generations as well. One thing I want to talk here, the economy has taken ecology. That means to get the food for every mouth. Sustainable economy is very important for every country. And for that, we are keeping our environment at stake. We are just looking into this, that there should be farmers who, but the agriculture should be there, agriculture production should be enough to give food to everyone. So means we are not bothered about the ecology. We are just looking into economy. So economy is killing the ecology. So it's high time to wake up. And I would like to end by one single line. Please save the mother nature. And I would like to acknowledge my thanks to financial assistance provided by Indian Council of Medical Research very much, because they had given me the chance to work on human samples. They had given me money to buy GLC and all. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Dr. Mamta. I can see in the chat box lots of appreciation for you. So many wonderful comments.
Is it?
Yes.
Someone has raised the hand. Yeah, I would like to.
Please answer them.
Any questions?
So, okay, let me formally thank you now. Thanks a lot, Dr. Mamta. It was an outstanding, power-packed, out-of-box presentation. You presented everything in a very simplified manner so that everyone was able to understand it very easily. The slides were wonderfully made, beautifully presented, and very informative. Your energy throughout the presentation was quite impressive. The topic selected by you is so much useful to all of us. Your presentation regarding pesticides opened our eyes and will surely use this knowledge in our daily life. Pregnant women, you advise pregnant women to not to eat non-vegetarian and fruit containing pesticides. Will surely keep this in mind. The use of cosmetic pesticides in fruits and vegetables is highly alarming and a cause of worry for each one of us. So we'll surely take care and reduce the consumption of pesticides in our food. I once again thank you for this wonderful PowerPoint presentation. I'm passing the stage to Dr. Mamta now.
So many compliments. Thank you, Sudha ma'am. That was very nice. But yes, toxicology is my subject, and I always say that I love my subject and it flows in my blood. Maybe it is a toxicant, but it does flow in my blood. So I'm still safe from toxicology. So any questions I would love to answer. If you have anything, you can write to me. Thank you so much for all lovely comments.
Hello.
I'm so thrilled.
Hello.
There's a question by Rashmi ma'am. I will send an answer, Rashmi ma'am.
Thank you so much. The
Yes,
energy you have just induced in such a extraordinary expression for the environment. And I want to say that your topic which you are talking about, I have discussed with Dr. V.K. Kalia from NIMHANS, National Institute of Health in Bangalore. It is the mental health. So I asked him that he should contribute some chapters for environment. He said that he can contribute that what kind of food a woman should eat, because he is working on the tumors in the brain. So he knows the carcinogen effects of the food on the human body. So then I don't know whether, it was such a wonderful study. I can suggest you or not that
you can always suggest.
you should contribute to the chapter. And they are having beauty pageants, and there the scientists like you should be invited, where they can, where the ladies can talk for the ladies, that it is such a sensitive issue. The breast cancers are there. Now you are telling us about the fetal deformities or whatever it is happening. It is a great topic for today, for our generation. We were talking that birds are at this thing danger, the fishes are at danger, but I know the women is at danger. That today I realized, we were knowing it. So I think you can contribute a chapter, not a paper in a big conference, but maybe from Amazon, we can just write a book which can reach to many people, because that kind of things, which is reaching to more people, that is more important. And even, for the girls, those who are studying in the school at adolescent, if they are, educated that you should not take this kind of food or that kind of food, then the awareness will be there for the future generations. And also we are having so many kitty parties and mahila samitis from ONGC and from Reliance and from so many places. So I think you should go, I should go, we should be invited, we should invite each other to talk there. I think then it will be more effective in spite of just talking here on this platform. So that is my request.
Very good talk.
That is my request, that you write a book on this.
I will write a book, ma'am. I've already written 8 just now, and they are going to come in next month. But of course, I'm going to write a book on toxicology for sure. And we both should write together, because we both are women power and we want to save the environment. So we should have this collaboration, and we should invite everyone who want to join us, and we can.
For women, you should write, and it should be distributed as we are reading novels. So if it is from Amazon, then it will be very effective. And it was such a
a good thing which I have heard in last 5 years, I should say.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a lovely
No
compliment.
words to appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Bring me up. So, with this, we come to an end of the second day of ISTTP-2. Thank you is the best prayer that anyone could say. I say that one a lot. Thank you expresses extreme gratitude, humility, understanding. Very well said by Alice Walker. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all the speakers who all are very learned and knowledgeable scientists of their field, and they have spared their valuable time to be with us here in this training program. I would like to tell all the speakers that we organizers and all the participants are very happy and delighted to have you here with us, and I hope you also had a wonderful time like we had with you. A feedback form will be circulated in the chat box, and I hope you already got the feedback form. If not, Muskan, kindly circulate the feedback form in the chat immediately. And please do fill the feedback form because your critical views are very, very important for us so that we can further improve on our training. Yes, it is coming. I can see some message on the chat. Not yet, but it is coming. So now this is Dr. Mamta Sharma, Organizing Secretary of ISTTP-2 with my patron and principal, Dr. Hukam Singh ji, and my team, Dr. Sudha Supal Singh, Muskan Dada, and Seetal Gupta. We are signing off for the day from the campus of RRC Alwar, and we will see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. sharp Indian Standard Time with new speakers and with bucket full of knowledge. So stay tuned, stay safe, have a wonderful rest of the day ahead. So see you. Bye bye. Take care.